Welcome to WebEx.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Today is what is today? May 17th, 18th? May 18th, 2022, and this is the City of Homestead City Council presentation ceremony. And we'll kick off tonight's recognitions with Councilwoman Faircloth Staggers.
Thank you, Mayor. And good evening, everyone. Such a pleasure to see all of you here in our chambers today for our special presentations. And I'm especially proud this evening to present to you some award-winning individuals in our community, those who are hope builders, those who are freedom fighters, and those who are giving our students a fair shot at success in the City of Homestead. We have our Principals of the Year here, as well as our Rookie Teacher of the Year and Teachers of the Year for their respective schools in all the schools that educate our children here in the City of Homestead. In May, we recognize our Teachers of the Year as well as our Principals of, not Principals of the Year, but Principals for National Principals Day. So it's very fitting that we host and facilitate this special presentation in the month of May. I will be starting off with our Principals of the Year, and then followed by our Teachers of the Year and Rookie Teachers of the Year. And these two principals, not only were they Principals of the Year for their respective schools, they were district finalists for Principals of the Year, and one of our principals here was the district runner-up for Principal of the Year. So I'm so excited to be able to present these beautiful awards to you on this evening. So to you, I say, you're simply the best. When I call your name and come down the aisle, receive your award, and then remain standing for a group picture, principals, and then we'll do the same for Rookie Teacher of the Year and Teacher of the Year. From Southdale Senior High School, Mr. J.C. DeArmas, Principal of the Year. Our Principal of the Year for Southdale Technical College, as well as District Runner-Up for Principal of the Year, Dr. Susanna Maudi.
Speak the language of love like you know what it means. And it can't be wrong. Take my heart and make it strong. You're simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone.
We have some additional principals here before I go to our Rookie Teachers of the Year and Teachers of the Year. All those principals that are here this evening supporting their teachers, if you could please stand to be recognized. I see several Principals of the Year with several principals. Thank you so much for all you leading our schools and giving our children hope, future, and an education. We appreciate you so much. And with that, I will move to our Rookie Teachers of the Year and Teacher of the Year. From Avocado Elementary, Mavis Hill, Rookie Teacher of the Year, and Teacher of the Year, Claudia Chatterton.
You're simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone.
And from Campbell Drive K-8 Center, we have Rookie Teacher of the Year, Taylor Leonard, and Teacher of the Year, Jessica Hernandez.
Hang on every word you say. Oh, tear the thought, no, no. Baby, I would rather be dead.
From Coconut Palm K-8 Academy, we have Krista Sinjig and Marcette Garoas. Some of them are not here, but I'll call their name anyway so that they can be recognized. This is a publicly televised ceremony, and we want them to get the credit that they so deserve. So I'll still call their name. And from Dr. William A. Chapman Elementary, we have Rookie Teacher of the Year, Gloria Baez, and Teacher of the Year, Romina Pastorelli. From Florida City Elementary, we have Jalela Box, Rookie Teacher of the Year, and Miss Kimberly Pure Williams, Teacher of the Year. From Gateway Environmental K-8 Academy, Rookie Teacher of the Year, Sarah Pineda, and Teacher of the Year, Matthew Porter.
Come to me wild and wild. You come to me, give me everything I need. Give me a lifetime of promises and a world of dreams.
Okay, from Homestead Middle School, my middle school alma mater, Rookie Teacher of the Year, John Lanzaverdi, and Teacher of the Year, Marie Elizabeth.
It can't be wrong. Take my heart and make it strong. You're simply the best. Better than all the rest.
And from my high school alma mater, Homestead Senior High, Rookie Teacher of the Year, Maide Montesano, and Teacher of the Year, Karina Hamilton.
Step down your heart.
Someone has to say a club
Hang
here.
on every word you say. Tears apart. Baby, I would rather.
From Irving and Beatrice Pesco K-8 Center, Rookie Teacher of the Year, Noah Diaz, and Teacher of the Year, Adrian Lewis.
In your eyes, I get lost, I get washed away. Just as long as I'm here in your arms, I could be in no better place.
From Laura C. Saunders Elementary, Rookie Teacher of the Year, Genesis Cruz, and Teacher of the Year, Victoria Lopman. All right, Laura C. Saunders, you're in the building. We hear you.
Ooh, I'm stuck on your heart. I hang on every word you
From
say.
Leisure City K-8 Center, we have Rookie Teacher of the Year, Maura Robledo, and Teacher of the Year, Anthony Harris.
Each time you leave me, I start losing control. Walking away with my heart and my soul. I can feel you even when I'm alone.
From Neva King Cooper Educational Center, for Rookie Teacher of the Year, we have Magda Corrado, and Teacher of the Year, Lakeisha Thomas Coakley. Okay, Neva King Cooper, we hear you.
Ooh, you're the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone.
From Redondo Elementary School, they didn't have any young school teachers for Rookie Teacher of the Year, but they have a Teacher of the Year in Miss Mahira Gonzalez. South Day Middle School, are you in the building? We have Rookie Teacher of the Year, Chloe Santiago, And Teacher of the Year, Maria Lebeau.
My heart's on fire. You come to me wild and wild.
From Southgate Senior High School, the premier school in the South, as they say, for Rookie Teacher of the Year, Dr. Daniela Calcano. And Teacher of the Year, although not here, Daniel Medina.
Speak the language of love like you
From
know
Southgate
what it
Technical
means.
College, I believe their Rookie Teacher of the Year was a runner-up for District Teacher. Somebody was a runner-up from Southgate Technical College. The teacher, I know it's one of them. For Rookie Teacher of the Year, from Southgate Technical, Mr. Derek Bostic. Teacher of the Year, Mr. Ricardo Reyes. It's backwards, but it's all good. It's all good.
I'm stuck on your heart. I hang on every word you say.
So he thought he was going to steal my thunder, but I was a step ahead of him. He told me the fun fact, but I already knew the fun fact. He was an employee with the city of Homestead previously, and then he pivoted to teaching.
And then I left teaching to become a city inspector. And then I got back into teaching. And that's what got down here.
There's nobody that can tell your story like you. Thank you for telling your story. Don't let other people tell your story.
Just as long as I'm here in your arms,
We'll
I
make it
could
work.
be in no
From my
better
elementary alma mater, West Homestead K-8. It was elementary then. The Teacher of the Year is Miss Cynthia Johnson. We have another recipient that we're going to recognize. But what you have this evening is you have your plaque, but in the gift bag, you have a gift card to enjoy an establishment in our downtown district. Once you go inside your gift bag, you'll determine what that establishment is. It's an assortment, but we wanted to showcase our city and give you the opportunity to experience all that is the best in the city of Homestead's downtown. So enjoy your gift certificate. Oh, we have Mass here. Mass here. Rookie Teacher of the Year, Mr. Brandon Cabrera. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Brandon Cabrera. Congratulations to all of you. From my heart to your hands, I thank you so much for building our children up. I know it has been extremely difficult in COVID, bringing all of our boys and girls back to the building, where mental health was front and center, where children were still trying to figure out how to play with each other with peer-to-peer relationships, because all of that was lost in COVID. So thank you for rising to the occasion and doing an incredible job in the city of Homestead. On behalf of myself, the mayor, vice mayor, and council, we salute you for all that you do. Congratulations, you're simply the best.
My heart's on fire. You come to me wild and wild. You come to me, give me everything I need. Give me a lifetime of promises.
I see the South Region office represented here today, Mr. Rafael Villalobos. Thank you so much, Administrative Director, for being here from the South Region office. Okay, I believe that concludes my presentation, and I hand it back off to the mayor.
Thank you again, Councilwoman, and to our teachers and principals. What an invaluable job that you do for our community. Thank you again. All right, Councilwoman Bailey, are you ready?
I am, Mayor. Thank you. So, well, I'm going to come down to the podium. One moment. Good evening, everyone. Congratulations again, principals, teachers. So our next presentation is for two of our local Homestead students who won a very impressive award. They won Disney's Cake Off, and I'm sure most of you saw them walking in with their very cool awards. So tonight we wanted This is Michael and Aaron Berry. Hey, Michael. Jennifer Bailey. Congratulations. So, one of the reasons that we wanted to honor these two students is not only obviously for this amazing achievement, but something else that I loved was your program, Boys That Bake. So personally, I would love to hear much more about that. They not only teach other boys how to bake, but also talk about bullying. So that is something that is obviously very, very important in today's world. So I salute you for that as well. Would you like to tell us a little bit about this journey?
I started Boys That Bake to be for as a community service outreach project for my old middle school, Frank C. Martin. We teach online Zoom classes about bullying, and we also give baking lessons. We're going to continue doing baking lessons this summer at local summer camps. The first one we're going to be at is Camp Slam at our local church. And yeah.
So the first one is Camp Slam, and do you have a second one already?
The second one is going to be like just regular on Zoom. I'm going to post it on my Instagram, Boys That Bake Miami, so anyone who wants to join can join.
Fantastic. That is awesome. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience at the Bake Off?
Well, it was pretty crazy that we were able to get on there, and I just want to thank everybody who helped us get on there, like my mom and my auntie and my grandma.
Well, I did watch the episode, so it was a take on the Descendants. If you know anything Disney, you know about the Descendants, and it was a wedding cake for two of the Descendants characters. So I thought it was very cute with the whole story and everything. So congratulations. Thank you for making Homestead proud. We have a couple certificates for you. So the certificates read, this certificate is awarded to Michael and Aaron Berry. Congratulations on your first place win at Disney's Magic Bake Off, representing the city of Homestead on June 5th, 2021. Presented this 18th day of May, the city of Homestead applauds you. Congratulations again. Got it? Congrats, mommy and auntie as well. Congrats, boys. Can I go into my second? Thank you. So our second presentation today is our Artists in the Spotlight. And this month is very special. We have Advanced Achievers students here, along with Miss Kayla Montezon. If you guys would like to come join here, we have a short slideshow to show you some of these amazingly talented works. And your teacher? Are you videoing or are you going to come stand with them? He's videoing. Okay. I'll shout out to Miss Hazel. So as they are getting those works set up, they are having their gallery opening at the Seminole Theater June 16th at 6 p.m. So please be sure to go and have a look. It is always a really fun night when they switch out the previous month's artists in the spotlight for the new pieces. All right.
Hi, my name is Kayla Montezon. I just first want to thank Councilwoman Bailey for allowing us to be here. It's truly an honor and a privilege. So just thank you. Do I start? Okay, so like I said, my name is Kayla Montezon. I am currently a senior at Florida International University. I'm currently doing my bachelor's in fine arts with a minor in art history, a film certificate, and I recently got accepted to the master's accelerated program, so I'm doing my master's in art education and fine arts. I keep busy. Recently, I was able to have the privilege to mentor these kids at Advanced Achievers Academy through Ms. Hazel Arroyo. It's been an honor and a privilege to do that as well. To present my personal pieces, something that I've done this past semester. Like I mentioned, I do graduate this year in December. Woohoo! So I'm currently working on my thesis portfolio. My portfolio is based on my culture and my heritage. So my dad being from Amsterdam, and my mom, who's over there, is from Caracas, Venezuela. So two very contrasting cultures, but however, both beautiful and unique in their own ways, and I would like to present that through my pieces. So here you have a series of threes, a triptych prints. I'm currently in printmaking. Printmaking is one of my major studies. I'm a printer and a painter. So this is a printmaking series that I did. I'll try to briefly go over the process. It's a very tedious process. They're relief prints. So basically, I do have the blocks here. I start off with a linoleum block. So it's a blank block, very thin. And what I do is I draw on it, and then I carve it. So it's a very tedious process. So all of the images you see here, every print, everything that's printed on, was done individually. I print, I carve it, I apply the ink, put the paper, and I roll it through the press. Once I roll it through the press, I take off the paper, and then I cut them out and sort of collage it together, and those are the three images you see. So you see the blue and yellow-ish circles are both inspired from my Dutch and my Venezuelan roots, looking both at European and South American patterns. And then the heart, the motif in the center, it kind of like, I guess kind of ties it together as a part of me. And then as well, you see the cardinals. The cardinals are etchings. So if you think of someone like Rembrandt, going way back, that did etchings on copper, I do etchings on Duralar, which is like plexiglass. The cardinals are a symbolism to my grandmother. It was her favorite bird. So I tend to honor her a lot in my works as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my works. I'm now gonna pass the mic on down to some of my lovely students here. So I believe it's Kaylin Fernandez. You're next.
Thank you, Kayla. Hello, my name is Kaylin Fernandez. I am in 11th grade. I am a student at Advanced Achievers Academy, and I'm here to present my art to you. I'm very fond of Impressionism and the artist Van Gogh. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. The artist Van Gogh. I like the colors he uses and the landscapes he paints. I really like his painting, the Wheat Field in Cyprus, which is the earrings, and his Starry Night painting, which are really beautiful landscapes, and I admire the colors he uses and just the way he uses them. And his post-impressionism is pretty. Painting for me is a sense of like control. In a world where everything seems out of control, I can put what I want into my paintings. Whatever I put on the canvas is my decision, and whatever I don't put on the canvas is also my decision. It gives me a sense of just being myself and just using the colors and putting down what I want. It's Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sasha Mendez. I'm 13 years old and I attend school at Advanced Achievers Academy. And I'm in 7th grade. My Frida Kahlo inspired art piece was just a regular art assignment that I deeply fell in love with. Frida Kahlo is like an icon to me. I idolize her. I feel like her history, she had like her up and downs. For me, she seems like a very powerful, inspiring, strong, independent woman. And she's very courageous and doesn't care what people say to her or their opinions at all, which I feel like that's a lot because I can't relate that much because I'm kind of, for myself, I feel like I'm a little sensitive, so like it's a lot that she could take in and not care what people say. One thing that me and Frida Kahlo have in common is that we both share the same Mexican heritage. And it amazes me that a woman coming from the same heritage as me is that courageous because from my background, usually what she did would like not be acceptable at all. Even today with everything happening, I feel like she would get a lot of hatred from like the like older generation. But with this new generation, I feel like we're coming to an understanding of like this whole thing with race and loving one another. So for me, she really amazes me and I love her a lot. And one day I really want to like be like her, but not be like her. Like I want to become like my own person, but like, I don't know. I loved creating this art piece. It was a good journey. I would like skip lunch and then go upstairs and finish it. It was a fun process too. Like I loved getting the compliments while I was making it, and it was great. I loved it so much. I feel like out of all my like art pieces I've made, this is one of my favorites. And yeah.
Hello, my name is Christopher Rodriguez. I'm in 7th grade attending Advanced Achievers Academy. And today I will be describing what art means to me. So as you can see, this is an art piece inspired by an artist named Romero Brito. And he uses different colors, shapes, and patterns. And in these patterns, you can see a heart. And in this art piece, it doesn't really have any deep meaning, but really what I just felt, and I think that's what art means to me. It doesn't always have to be about a deep expression, but just something that feels right to you, and that's what made me do this art piece. In the process, I really just drew what came to mind, and that's how I made it. And the colors were really inspired by his style and what he thought, and yeah. His style consisted of vivid colors, and he had like different patterns and shapes, and that's what I studied, and I put it on the paper. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't really know.
Filomena Cruz couldn't make it today, but she also is an incredible artist that also should be noticed. She's in 9th grade, I believe. Yeah, okay. She's a 9th grader at Advanced Achievers Academy, so this is sort of just a highlight of her work, of Frida Kahlo. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Andrea Ramos. In 7th grade. My art is Impressionism, and this type of art is just a bunch of this art is mostly landscapes and it's done pretty fast. Now, art for me means a lot because I've done art at a very young age, and seeing how much I've improved makes me proud and makes me want to keep going. Like me, like 5-year-old me would have not believed I'm here today, so thank you. What artist inspired me was my uncle. He's done a lot for me and my art, and he's helped me and give me all this courage, so I thank him a lot and having him in my family. And yeah, just thank you guys for having me here.
Asia Ellis also couldn't make it today, but she's also another artist that should be noticed. It's a watercolor piece. Yes, it's a watercolor piece that they did for a project that they worked on in class, so that is her piece. She is the last recipient, so kind of just to wrap it up, I again just want to thank you, Councilwoman Bailey, for having us, and on behalf of the Mayor's Youth, listen to me, right? I was part of the Mayor's Youth Council with Councilwoman Fairclough, so pardon, I'm used to saying Youth Council, but thank you to the Mayor's Council for having us today. It's truly a privilege and an honor to be here, so thank you again so much.
Well, thank you all. I do not tell most of the people that present for this, but I would put all of your pieces up in my house. That's how much I love them. I love the history, the culture behind it, and I hope you guys keep up the great work. So don't forget, June 16th, 6 o'clock at the Seminole Theater. You can see all of these beautiful pieces and these wonderfully talented students. Thank you again, Ms. Hazel. Keep up the great work with your students, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Avila?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I can feel the passion in the room from the principals and the Rookie of the Year's beautiful, fabulous presentation. I loved it. And congratulations to all the artists in the house as well. I want to share about a little girl, 10 years old, who was able to sell close to $20,000 of product in just 6 weeks. Who here in this room can imagine a job where you can make $20,000 in less than 2 months? Well, I'll tell you what, there's an organization that is teaching little girls, elementary age children, 5 essentials: goal setting, decision making, money management, people skills, and business ethics. And this organization is called the Girl Scouts of America. And in this room today, we have Troop 1855 here with us today. They're out of Homestead. And if you can come on up to here with me, all of the Girl Scouts. They are here to support one very special girl, and they all work together as a troop to sell cookies. And you all probably participated in buying those delicious Girl Scout cookies. And so those $20,000 were raised for their troop, and they raised those monies to help fund the adventures that they want to do as a Girl Scout troop. And so we have here daisies and juniors and brownies in their troop, and we have Sofia Zamora, who is here. And she sold 3,820 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And I think that it would be remiss of me not to mention that, of course, her mom, Claudia Zamora, was right behind her, supporting her. And the reason why, not only is it important to recognize the hard work and the entrepreneurial skills of such a young lady, but she made, as a Homestead resident, as a Girl Scout, the top cookie seller in Miami-Dade County. So we are all very proud of her, and I wanted to recognize her publicly. We have here a certificate of recognition for Sofia Zamora, Girl Scout Troop 1855, for being the top cookie seller in Miami-Dade County, presented this 18th day of May 2022 on behalf of Mayor Stephen Losner and Vice Mayor Julio Guzman, Councilwoman Erica Avila, and the rest. Thank you so much. Let's all get in here.
Mayor?
Councilman?
Councilwoman Alva, may I add one thing?
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting. She was able to sell over 3,000 boxes of cookies. And
How many did you buy?
I bought a whole lot of them. but I'll tell you what her sales pitch was. You know, normally you walk up, oh, yeah, girl, hey, how much is a cookie? She said, well, she didn't tell you it was a 1 for $5. She said, the only option you have is 4 for $20. So that was her sales pitch. You couldn't buy less than 4.
Exactly.
So, good job, Claudia. Thank you for your support, and we love you guys for what you've done. Thank you.
So I want to give an opportunity real quick before you go down. Can you just say what your most favorite part of the whole process was?
I like persuading people to buy more, and I don't like just saying one cookie. When they say one cookie, and it's like 2, then they say 2, and then I say 4. And then I convince them to buy 4. So yeah, that's my favorite part, and I thank my mom and my family members who helped me in this process for being first in Miami-Dade.
All right, ladies, you all did a wonderful job, and that includes my littlest, Violet Perez, and Lila Rose. They are in this troop as well. So congratulations to all of you for doing a fantastic job. And this troop, this is pretty much a new troop. We were open for a little while, and then we closed down for COVID, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and we were able to get some really good leaders involved and to bring it back alive. So congratulations for knocking it out of the park in 2022.
Did anyone bring any Samoas?
I heard there's a few boxes left. I'll catch you in the parking lot, Mayor.
I'm sure.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And thank you, parents, for supporting these young ladies in their hard work. All right, before we adjourn this meeting, I haven't seen him, but I want to make sure that Jake Canavan did not slip into the room. Nope. All right, well, that concludes our presentation ceremony for tonight. At 6 o'clock, we will convene our regular city council meeting. Good night, and thank you all for coming.
do. Come here. Come here, girls. Where are the girls? Where's Lila? Come here, Lila. Come here, Lila. We're all gonna say it together. Come here. Come here, Lila. All right. Come here. Where's Kaya left? All right. Get real close to the mic. No, like get in the circle. We're all gonna say it together, not by yourself. Together. Face your mom. Bring the balloons down. Hold it from here, Lila. Hold it from the bottom. We gotta leave. We got 1 minute. Lila, hold. This. Come over here, Lila. I want it in the picture, though. I want the balloons in the picture. Can you get it? Can you stand next to and not in front of her? All right. Here you go. Come on, girls. Lila. Lila. All right. Go ahead. Say it. Where's your Okay. 1, 2.
On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law.
Ready down there? Ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead City Council meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, May 18th, 2022, and it is 6:03 p.m. Please stand with me as we call forward Reverend Howard Harden from the First Baptist Church of Homestead to offer the invocation tonight as the first time since March of 2020. Thank you, Pastor Harden.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come before you tonight with grateful hearts. We thank you for the many freedoms we enjoy. We thank you for our rights, which we receive from you. We thank you for the many ways you have blessed this city and continue to do so. And we thank you for the grace that you give us by which we can govern ourselves. So as we come to the business before us, we face numerous challenges. We desperately need your wisdom. We ask that you would guide our mayor, our vice mayor, this entire city council, that you would unite them and use them to make decisions to bring about our greater good. And we pray for the many public servants that are represented here tonight as well. Oh God, would you protect them as they serve others? And I pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join with me in pledging allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Ross. Here. Councilwoman Faircloth Staggers. Here. Councilman Fletcher.
Here.
Councilwoman Avila. Here. Councilwoman Bailey. Here. Vice Mayor Guzman.
Here.
Mayor Losner.
Here. All right. Thank you. Mr. Manager, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
Mayor, staff would like, sorry about that, that's really loud. Staff would like to defer tab 4, car number 3519, downtown Homestead signage to next month's meeting.
Thank you. Do we need formal action on that? All right, so do we have a motion to defer the enumerated item? Moved by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. All right. On that, our next item will be tabs 2 and 3, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item, section 6 of the agenda. Mr. White. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we go forward, I missed something. There's an additional presentation on the agenda by Councilwoman Avila. It was at the front of the agenda for FIU.
Are they present today? I guess not, so we'll defer. Thank you.
Mr. White, sorry about that. Thank you.
Right, so moving on to the quasi-judicial section of your agenda, please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address. When the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made, an opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in, all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of the authority to speak for the organization, and further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 5-90, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the quasi-judicial agenda. Tab 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Right. Are there any disclosures that need to be made that have not previously been announced with respect to any of these items? Appears there are none. All right, Mr. White, tab 5.
So, Mayor, the first item, tab 5, for your consideration is...
I don't think we swore in.
Oh,
We
I'm,
swore-
so, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me. At this time, anyone who's wishing to speak or testify on any of the following quasi-judicial items in the audience, please stand, raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk.
Would you please, do you hereby swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God? Thank you. You may be seated.
So your first item this evening for consideration is tab 5. Tab 5 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval requested by Copart of Connecticut, Inc. for the development of a vehicle storage facility on an approximately 38-acre parcel of land within the Homestead Park of Commerce, generally located north of Park of Commerce, east of Southwest 152nd Avenue, south of Southeast 14th Street, and west of Southwest 42nd Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. And I would just add that the site plan and T-plat for that has already been approved. That was what we considered to be the first phase of the Copart, which was on the northern portion. The next item for consideration is the final plat for the second phase, which deals with the 60 acres on the southern portion.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino?
Yes, sir. Well, we're recommending that, again, there's two of these, tab 6 and 5 are kind of running together, the same thing. One's 38 acres, one's 60 acres, and they're plats. They're final plats, so they are really being run by the county, and we're ministerially hearing them. We're recommending approval on behalf of the City of Homestead. We've looked at these and reviewed them in accordance with the requirements in Division 4 of our code and all the subdivisions, Chapter 25 of platting, and then Miami-Dade County Code with Chapter 28 and all those, and even the Florida State Code, Chapter 177. And we believe it meets not only ours, but the counties and the states, so we're recommending approval on both of these sites as well.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could, Mr. Cordino gave a presentation for both of those items. If you would like, I can read the title for tab 6, introduce it. Ms. Slavens is here on behalf of Copart. She has a presentation for you. But you can have a collective discussion, public hearing, and then separately vote on each item if that's your will.
Let's do that. If you'd go ahead and read in tab 6, then we'll have Ms. Slavens come forward.
Sure. Tab 6 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval requested by Copart of Connecticut, Inc. for the development of a vehicle storage facility on an approximately 59.36 acre parcel of land within the Homestead Park of Commerce, generally located north of Alex Muxo Jr. Boulevard, east of Southwest 152nd Avenue, south of the Park of Commerce Boulevard, west of Southeast 38th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Ms. Slavens.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Slavens. My address is 701 Brickell Avenue, Suite 3300. I'm here tonight on behalf of Copart for these two final plats, the north parcel, Phase 1, 38 acres, and the south parcel, Phase 2, 60 acres. As you may recall, when the uses were approved for these parcels, the owner entered into a declaration of restrictions for the property. I'm happy to use this opportunity to give you an update on the conditions that were placed on the development of the property. So in the covenant that we proffered to the city, there was a limitation on the uses where these sites would not be used as overflow facilities for the Princeton day-to-day operations for Copart. This is intended to be a catastrophic response site and utilized only in times of specific need when a state of emergency is called. Property access was limited to the property. That has not changed. Access from the south is via Palm Drive to 142nd or Contender Road to Park of Commerce Boulevard. Access from the north is via 137th Avenue to Park of Commerce Boulevard, and we will not be using Kingman Road as a primary truck route for our vehicles. We have agreed not to lease the property to any third parties, and note that is not a permitted use in the Homestead Park of Commerce, but we don't intend to lease the property. The property had a restriction. We committed to a closing date for the sites, which was December 30th, 2020. That was satisfied. The limitation on storage use, we've discussed. There's an entrance feature improvement condition for the sign at the entrance of the Homestead Park of Commerce on Canal Drive. That is intended to be completed prior to the completion of the north parcel. And then there was a dedication of Contender Road, which had never been actually dedicated to the city. That was completed via a right-of-way deed that the council accepted. And then lastly, there were improvements to the lake parcel, which is a 17-acre lake located on the south side of Park of Commerce Boulevard, northwest of this south, what I call the south parcel, or the 60-acre parcel, phase 2. Those lake improvements are contingent on a discussion amongst the city, council, and staff as to whether the city would like this property as a passive park with certain improvements that included a walking path, benches, and landscaping. An offer letter has been sent to the city in compliance with the declaration of restriction that required us to make the formal offer to you prior to the approval of the final plat for the south parcel. And once that offer letter is sent, the city has a year to accept or decline the offer. I waited as long as possible to send the letter. I sent it about 10 days ago so that the clock did not start ticking for you until I was showing up here with the final plat. And we have a year to determine whether it's appropriate. So I know the city is entering into budget season. This can be something that is potentially part of the discussion for the Parks Department, and I am available and open to discuss this with you, with staff, and incorporate anything you need into the discussion or any information you would like. So with that, thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Council. Any initial questions or comments? Okay. I will ask if there's anyone in the chambers who wishes to speak on this matter. Is there anyone online? So I'll close the public hearing then and ask for a motion to approve the final plat with respect to tab 5. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey. Seconded by Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to ask if we're considering that offered letter at this time as well, or is that not part of what we're voting on at the moment? Okay.
What is before us is the 2 final plats only. We're not in a time crunch. I think, the manager and his staff will individually, talk to each of us about their findings.
Mayor, whatever the council wants to do, whether they want to talk about it later after once we vote on both items, that's fine, or they can have staff come back at a later date and we could discuss it then.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the final plat described in tab 5. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Fletcher? Yes. Councilwoman Avila? Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Guzman?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
No.
The motion carries.
All right, do we have a motion for approval on tab 6 on the final plat for the balance of the parcel?
Move it.
Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Fletcher? Yes. Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Vice Mayor Guzman?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
No.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, tab 7, Mr. White.
Yes, moving right along, Mayor, tab 7 and tab 8 are the second readings 4 rezonings related to properties that are adjacent to one another. The applicant's representative, Mr. Arias, is here. He has one presentation for both. I can introduce both of these: collective public hearing, listen to the applicant, public hearing, close it, take a vote separately on each one of these second reading items.
Let's proceed in that manner. Thank you.
So tab 7 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by Pueblo Revocable Trust of an approximately 5-acre parcel of land from agricultural zoning district to light industrial zoning district for property generally located on the southwest corner of Southeast 8th Street and Southwest 147th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, provided for conditions, conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second and final reading. Tab 8 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by Pueblo Revocable Trust of an approximately 5-acre parcel of land from agriculture zoning district to light industrial zoning district for property generally located on the southwest corner of Southeast 8th Street and Southwest 147th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conditions, conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second and final reading as well.
Thank you. Is the applicant's representative present? Is there a presentation? Or while they come out, let's hear from staff.
Yes, sir. We're recommending approval of this. This is second reading, and we've looked at it at the LPA, the previous council meeting, and now. It's two different parcels of the same size, right next to one another. Tract 1, Block 1, and Tract 1, Block 2. Generally, when land comes into the city for development, it comes from something. This is coming from agriculture into, and to make it developable, it wants to become industrial. The comprehensive plan has an industrial comp plan designation on top of it, and so the easiest thing to do is zone it industrial, so it's developable as industrial, and that's exactly what we're doing here, and we've reviewed it to the plan. We think it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and we're recommending approval.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cordino. Now we'll hear from the applicant's representative. Welcome back. Good evening.
Good evening, council members. Mayor Alex Arias, offices at 701 Brickell Avenue, representing the applicant. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Amanda Nelgif. As you may recall, at first reading, I gave a thorough presentation. Out of respect for your time this evening, what I'd like to do is just cover some of the major bullet points. Firstly, this proposed rezoning to I-1 light industrial would bring the property into conformity, once again, with the underlying industrial land use. As referenced by staff's favorable recommendation, the proposed amendment will support and advance infill development in this area. It adheres to all of the applicable city code provisions, and ultimately, it would allow for the light assembly, light manufacturing, and warehouse uses that have become essential for resident needs and demands. With that said, we're here to answer any questions that you may have, but we would respectfully request your approval of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments on this application? Okay. Councilwoman? No? Yes?
Thank you. I have more of a question for staff in general. I'm familiar with several properties in this general area that kind of has similar, interests in switching from either residential to commercial or agriculture to commercial. Is there something that we can do, and this is for Cordino and group and James White? It's okay.
I think a sidebar, but
It's all
very
right.
important issue.
So in regards to other properties that are similar in interest in wanting to flip from either residential to commercial or agriculture to commercial, is there something we can do more as a blanket policy in this general area that would match that would fit better in terms of economic development and bringing more commercial opportunities to the area?
Well, I mean, the general rule of thumb is that the comprehensive plan is the designation that we felt the city wants to have that land used as. And in this case, we had a comprehensive plan designation. So at a certain point in time, the city thought that they wanted it to be industrial. And so the easiest thing to do is to bring it in as industrial. The other thing we can do is if you wanted to look at any of those parcels of land and make them a different category like commercial, you'd go to the comprehensive plan and make those changes to the comp plan, so when it came in and got zoned from ag to whatever, it had more of a commercial designation, or at least whichever of the zoning categories implemented the overall comprehensive plan designation. I think that's the best way to do it, is look at it from a comp plan perspective, figure out what you want it to be, and then comp plan it that way so that it can be rezoned that way as it comes in. Does that answer your question?
And I think it's about, should we be looking at these changes on an individual, and I support the application for tonight, but just on a broader perspective, should we be looking at properties individually, or is it better to kind of do a blanket policy?
Well, just to add to what Mr. Cordino stipulated, when we talk about the comp plan, and we most frequently talk about the future land use element and the future land use map of the comp plan here, with changes or proposed changes with regards to various projects and rezonings. And so that is a broad range, sort of 20-year outlook policy guiding document that's fluid. It's meant to change based on demographics, conditions, the way the city is developing. It's not etched in stone, but it's a legislative decision that you all make as the policymakers as to, those colors on the map. Usually they are not sporadic colors. You have an area that's low density residential that maybe segues into something that's, a little bit higher residential, maybe start with a lighter commercial or professional office type, and then move into categories that make sense with respect to the intensity level of the various businesses. When we're dealing with a future land use category, the broad-based category, which is the industrial future land use map category, it's broad. And when you read the text in the comp plan amendment about the industrial future land use map designation, it'll tell you what it's intended to do and provide, and then it'll also give you or indicate to you that it gets implemented by the following zoning districts. And it'll say I-1, I-2, I-3. And when someone has a future land use category, they are entitled by law to a zoning that's consistent with that future land use map designation. So in this case, the property has a future land use map designation of industrial, and the least intensive implementing zoning district is I-1, which the applicant is requesting. But when you're ready, or when you look at these things, you would look at it holistically and not necessarily parcel by parcel. I think you would want to look at it more from a larger optic than a myopic sort of view.
I'd add to that. I agree, and I think I understand the question a little bit better. I think you look at these things from a long-term out, not as they come in to rezone the parcel. I think that's a comp plan thing that you would look at the entire district and make changes district-wide in advance, because the applicants come in and they rely on your comp plan as the vision that the city wants to see for that neighborhood. So they come in and rezone to make it match that way. If we start to change those things at this point in time, then it becomes, I think, very confusing for the applicants, because they've come in thinking you wanted industrial and you want commercial. So I would, every so many years, there's a thing called an evaluation and appraisal report, where the cities are to go in and re-examine their comprehensive plan and make those types of changes. Like, you look at the land use and say, well, industrial doesn't work anymore. Maybe we should change this to commercial because of, the demographics is changing, the population has shifted. You would make those changes to your future land use map. At that point in time, that happens like every 7 years, and that gives you a refresh on what you wanted to do, so you're not doing it piecemeal. And then
when
you
was
get the
the last
checkerboard.
time we did that in Northwest section?
When did it year last? 11? No. Or did we just do? I think I'm going to check on the.
think that proves my point. So I think that as we continue, thank you for that, guys. As we continue our discussions with our downtown and creating those boundary lines, let's take a broader look as well into the northwest section and see about how we can do a better coloring of the maps to maybe help kind of extend the vision that we have for our greater downtown Homestead area. And I think that'll help direct the landowners into applying at the right time with the right projects and cure probably a lot of the discussions a lot of us are hearing with regards to, well, how come they're commercial and I'm residential and I have to pay $25,000, So I think it's worth hearing all this now. Thank you for the opportunity to let me get through it, and I'll probably have you guys bring it up in future discussions under my agenda if necessary, but thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Did we have a motion and a second on the?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on tab 7. Real quick, I don't recall opening a public hearing on this. Is there anyone in the chambers or online wishing to speak with respect to tabs 7 or 8? Ain't none appearing. I'll close the public hearing and we'll have a roll call vote on tab 7, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Councilwoman Bailey. Councilman Roth. Councilman Fletcher. Councilwoman Avila. Vice Mayor Guzman. Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, now we have a motion on tab 8. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, second by Councilwoman Avila. Let's have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Avila. Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Councilman Fletcher. Councilman Roth. Councilwoman Bailey. Vice Mayor Guzman.
Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down tonight. All right, I think, does that conclude the land use portion of the agenda, Mr. White?
That concludes the quasi-judicial section of your agenda. Now we're moving on to legislative items and discussion. So tab 9 is your first legislative item for discussion. It's a resolution of the City of Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving an agreement between the City of Homestead and the Florida Department of Corrections for the use of supervised inmate labor, waiving competitive bidding pursuant to City Code Section 2411.1A7, exemptions from competitive bidding, providing for implementation, providing for renewal, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mayor, this agreement is for one inmate work squad for the Homestead Police Department. The work squad consists of one corrections officer and up to 5 inmates. The crew will provide daily cleaning for the police station, Pal Gym, and Explorer buildings. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an interagency agreement with the State of Florida Department of Corrections for the use of up to 5 inmates by the police department for a grand total of $172,491 over 3 years. This is a 3-year agreement with the option to renew for one additional 3-year period upon the same terms, conditions, and mutual written consent of both parties. Something to keep in mind here, Mayor and Council, we're just putting this agreement in place at this time. There are no inmates, well, there are inmates available, but there's no guards to take care of the inmates. So we just want to put the contract in place. There won't be any cost, so that way when the inmates do become available, we can immediately take advantage of that.
Good, thank you. Is there anyone either in the audience or online wishing to speak on this matter? Mr. Kraft, let's get Mr. Kraft a microphone quickly. We're going to adhere to the 3-minute limit tonight,
I know
Mr.
the
Kraft.
3-minute
Okay.
limits.
Thank you.
But anyway, this is all fine to use inmates for it, but how much cheaper is it that by using inmates instead of using a normal vendor from the city? How much will we be saving by using inmates?
Mr. Manager, can you kind of speak to the tremendous savings that we've historically had
Yeah,
above and beyond the availability of in-house folks to do what they do.
Exactly. So in terms of this, each of these work crews is usually about 5 inmates, and I think at one point we had actually 5 inmate crews. So that's the equivalent of 25 personnels or employees out there picking up garbage, pressure cleaning, painting, falling down trees. So as you can imagine, the cost of that alone is quite substantial. Now, talk about landscaping bid. Our understanding and talking to Pedro and Parks, we included a lot of the areas where the inmates used to take care of, and the bid is coming in, I want to say, close to almost $200,000 higher, and that's a year. So this is $172,000 for 5 employees for 3 years, which is a bargain.
Every day, potentially.
Every single
Every
day, correct.
But those inmates, they will only be at the police station, right? They will not be doing landscaping.
This is just one agreement, Mr. Kraft. We have multiple agreements. We brought one back, I want to say a few months ago as well. This one in particular is for the police department, which there's a cost for custodial services now that the police department has to pay for by not having the trustees.
So when we are using inmates for landscaping, are we not jeopardizing the contract we have with Brightview?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. All right, I'll close the public hearing then and ask for a motion to approve car number 3531, which is tab 9, right? Tab 9, which is car number 3478 for the use of inmate work crews.
Okay.
Moved by Councilwoman Bailey.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Guzman. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Ross? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers? Councilman Fletcher? Vice Mayor Guzman? Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. So, is tab 10 you, Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 10 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, to approve and execute participation agreements with CVS, Tiva, and Allergain, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Resolution Number R 2021-0892, the City Council of Homestead, Florida, entered into a Florida Memorandum of Understanding which sets forth a framework for a unified plan for the proposed allocation and use of opioid settlement proceeds. The city subsequently executed 3 participation agreements for settlement of claims with Meckerson Corporation, Cardinal Health, Inc., Amerisource Burgeon Corporation, and Endo Pharmaceuticals, Inc. The firm that represents the city have now provided 3 additional participation agreements for consideration in the settlement of claims. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the participation agreements with CVS, Tiva, and Allergan.
Thank you. This is something similar to what was before us a few months ago, just different defendants.
Yes,
Correct.
sir. And I'll defer to Matt on this one.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from council? All right, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone either online or in the audience wishing to speak on this matter. All right, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve TAD 10, the opioid litigation participation agreement. Moved by Councilman Fletcher. Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Fletcher? Yes. Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers? Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilwoman Avila? Councilman Ross? Yes. Vice Mayor Guzman?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Thank you. Next item is tab 11. This is a discussion under car number 3534 regarding food trucks. Is that you, Mr. Manager, or Mr. Corradino?
I believe it's James.
Or Mr. White? Okay.
I get the pleasure tonight, Mr. Mayor. So just brief follow-up. So back in January, this item was raised by the Vice Mayor for discussion with respects to food trucks being allowed in the city. And we outlined a number of different issues related to the existing statutory framework that deals with preemption of cities where you can't totally prohibit food trucks or mobile food vending from operating in the city, but you had the ability to dictate where, reasonable time, where in the city you would like or would want to regulate or allow food trucks. The vice mayor had provided, as an example, regulations that Miami-Dade County had been utilizing with respect to food trucks, dealing with food trucks associated with private property. There was also another discussion, I guess a simultaneous discussion that was also occurring with regards to how you treat and deal with food trucks that are on city-sponsored events or on city property. And with respect to the regulation of those two columns, I think they're completely different, right? If we're dealing with something that is in the city, that is on private property, dealing with making sure that our right-of-ways are not impacted, then that's something that we should codify so that the rules are known to everyone coming into the city. With respect to policies that are established via your Park and Recreation Department, your manager, or by you all, those are policies that are fluid. They can meant to be changed. They include insurance, risk, indemnification, those types of things as to when and how you choose and what events. Those are separate. So what I've provided for you this evening for discussion purposes is sort of a laundry list of various requirements for food trucks. And the county hasn't updated the definition of food trucks. The statutory definition is a food dispensing vehicle. We'll call it food trucks for purposes. If we are to do this, we would create a section in the code that would lay out the framework of what someone would be required to do to come in and provide in an application format to be reviewed for them to be able to operate a food truck in the city. There was discussion by the vice mayor about potentially allowing food trucks or a group of food trucks to congregate on a vacant piece of property, sort of create a food truck, excuse me, a food truck sort of venue, if you will, which are common in a lot of cities, whereby there are communal seating surrounded by a number of food trucks. There are, ADA accessibility issues, that are addressed. There are bathrooms, facilities for the patrons. It's somewhat improved. It allows for off-street parking, so you're not impeding the roadways, those types of things. We can certainly consider all of that on the table. The minutes, I don't know if you've had a chance to review those, but back in January, Matt and I did identify some of these critical issues that we would need to kind of get policy direction from you all with regards to how you would like to structure this so that I can come back with an ordinance, based on the legislative intent or the legislation, the policy direction that you all would like to see. And so, we can certainly go through these now if you want and discuss them. I'm happy to take any questions, however you all would like to proceed. Open format.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I like everything you said, and I think we're off to a good start. Some of the questions, I don't know if they can be answered today when it comes to the code that we're going to install But some of the things I envision are knowing what type of setbacks would be required. Specifically, if you have an irregular lot that the highest and best use wouldn't be to develop because potentially you don't have the space to develop, or you might not have the density numbers to make it work. And if there's an irregular sized commercial lot, have specifics in terms of the code on how you can set that up. I do like the fact that we have in here, you know, the permitted areas would be commercial, industrial, and mixed-use districts. I don't think we should allow food trucks in a residential area, in my opinion. So I think we got off to a good start, and I like where the direction this is heading.
And, you know, we can certainly, if you all would like to take a little bit more time and opportunity to look at some of this stuff and maybe frame some questions or frame some ideas, you know, we can certainly bring this back in a workshop format or at a COW meeting to talk a little bit more in detail so that I can get a little bit more policy direction so that I can, you know, start drafting the legislation in ordinance format. For you. And, you know, we can get into a little bit more of, you know, if you've identified the areas in the city or the zoning districts where you would allow for these to go, then from a policy perspective, you are either going to be talking about lots that are vacant, unimproved lots, or lots that already have existing facilities or businesses on them. And with respect to how a number of municipalities or counties have dealt with the ability to allow for food trucks on private property, let's just say in a parking lot of a Publix, right? That you would have to get approval from the property owner. You would want to make sure that it's located in an area that doesn't impede vehicular or pedestrian traffic. You would want to make sure that it is not it isn't taking up the required parking that's necessary to support that particular business, whether it's a doctor's office, a Publix, or you know, any of the enumerated types of uses, office building. You would want to make sure that, you know, it's located on the site where there is the ability not to impact ingress and egress and to prohibit stacking on a roadway so that you don't create issues with traffic. Those are all just broad-based types of things that I think that we would automatically, as staff or planners, suggest that we would advocate for you all to consider in this legislation. But there's certainly the ability of a wide plethora of other things for you all to consider. You know, with respect to an unimproved lot, there are going to be certain things under the building code that, you know, I can't answer, that the building official would have to answer with regards to how you deal with parking, how you deal with ADA accessibility. The size of the acre, or I mean the size of the vacant parcel is only going to be able to support so much, right? So if it's a bigger vacant parcel, you're going to be able to have more on the vacant parcel and be able to provide more parking, more access. If it's smaller, then the footprint is going to dictate what you can put on and be smaller as well. So, you know, maybe there's consideration with minimums or, you know, maximums that you want to consider with respect to those types of issues. There are a number of municipalities that have spatial requirements that you can't have. I mean, set aside having a group of food trucks on a particular parcel. Notwithstanding that situation, if you just had a regular food truck that wanted to come in and put be at Publix, and then maybe next door they wanted to come in and put another food truck, or maybe somebody wanted to put a food truck next to, Chefs on the Run or one of the other restaurants. Do you want there to be spacing requirements from brick and mortar restaurants? Do you want there to be spacing requirements between food trucks? I mean, those are all things to sort of consider as we develop the legislation. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of this stuff is in here that is sort of a laundry list of things that we can check off on, say, yes, we like, no, we don't want, yes, we like, no, we don't want. But that's sort of the detail that I need to help facilitate drafting legislation for you all, provided you want to adopt food truck regulations and allow food trucks. I mean, the law is that you can't prohibit them, you have to allow them. So it's a matter of how you want to regulate them, where you want to regulate them, what the requirements are. I mean, we're limited with regards to, we can't charge fees, we can't have license applications, things of that nature. They still have to comply with Florida Building Code, fire safety issues. I'm still not exactly sure. The county certificate of use, as you mentioned back in January. I mean, the county has a certificate of use process which they utilize for many, many things. And basically, it serves as a prerequisite, like an inspection prerequisite, before you're entitled to get a BTR or before you're entitled to get X, Y, and Z. It's like an annual sort of ongoing thing. I think there might be problems with that in the context of the given statutory framework that Mr. Pearl and I talked about. I don't want to get hung up on that. We can find a way to figure that out, what the proper mechanism would be when someone comes in. But I really need some policy thought as to the types of regulations or the types of things that you all would like to see. And we can start out as a pilot program, and we can start out small and see how it works. And you don't have to have all the bells and whistles. You can have the minimum, or you can put all the bells and whistles in and see how that works, and then take away or put in. But that was sort of my idea, because I didn't really, it was later in the evening, I didn't get a real sense of there being a consistent policy directive from the council. Everybody kind of had different thoughts or ideas, and so I thought it would be better just to put something in writing, a laundry list for you all to look at and be able to go through, and that would trigger ideas or thoughts for you with respect to consideration of any type of legislation.
Thanks, James. I like the idea of a pilot program, specifically where we could have a designated larger parcel where you could potentially have 4 or 5. With the lack of restaurants that we have in Homestead and in the general area, I'm envisioning this food truck venue, which are highly successful in other parts of the county and other states. I'm envisioning this as an alternative location for people to go and maybe get specialized types of foods. So for the pilot program, and we'll open this up for discussion because it's kind of difficult to get individual food truck legislation or regulations. But what I'm envisioning is a larger size parcel where you can have a minimum 4 or 5 trucks, not impeding and not, disturbing the normal character of our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yeah, I really do believe that we need to look at this in a workshop setting. I have some very big concerns. I've dealt with this in the private sector. When you're having to validate that they have a county business license, they have the correct liability insurances before they can come on your property. I really think we need to look at the logistics when we do this. We've discussed this, as a possibility of doing this at the new, sports complex when we're building that out, having a location for these trucks to go to as an option. But I really think we need to make sure we're covering our liabilities and ensuring that we're doing the right thing for the community and not just allowing anybody with a truck to come into town and start cooking. I want to validate that they're meeting the state standards for food and beverage. So, a couple of my concerns. That's all I have for now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fletcher. Councilman Roth?
Thank you, Mayor. And James, thank you for your professionalism, because with all that stuff you just said, I would have never thought of any of that stuff. So we're blessed to have you in the city looking out for our best interest. However, I'm not sure that I understand the process that we're trying to go through with creating a blanket food truck type ordinance. Food trucks are allowed in the city of Homestead already. It's not like they're not. So, and I understand what Vice Mayor's trying to create, which I think could be something special, but I don't know that we have to do it at this venue and at this level. It would more likely be a property owner that was interested in starting this type of a business would come to us and ask us what the process would be. And then as the Vice Mayor was speaking, I was thinking, well, wait a minute. Maybe the city venue, and this is, I'm throwing this out in left field now, they talked about the 15-acre lot, the lake today. And maybe that would be a location that you would consider to do a once-a-month food truck type venue or a once-a-week type food truck venue. Others have tried to come into the city and use Harris Field as a food truck venue for Friday nights, and it didn't work very well for whatever reason. But I don't know that we have to, as a dais, come up with an overall plan for the entire city of Homestead. I don't know there's too many parking lots in the city that would afford a food truck working out a lease with a Publix, we'll use them, and then that food truck creating traffic and taking up parking spaces and creating an outdoor cafe style out of their truck would be something the city really wanted. So I'm kind of confused as to what it is we're actually trying to figure out here, because trucks are allowed to come into the city. We have them at city events. We've had them at Main Street. We've had them, heck, we had them at the Military Appreciation over the weekend. So I'm still a little confused on what we're trying to establish from the dais. For that, I'll rest, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman?
I'm on the same page. It's kind of like split. My understanding is that we're trying to come up with a policy to create like a campsite for these food trucks to be able to come in and call home and serve from a particular location that is a privately owned lot. And we don't currently have any code for the development of such a site for that type of business use, correct? Okay, so we're not necessarily trying to rewrite code for general food truck business throughout the city limits. We're talking about if a private landowner wants to conduct business on their property where food trucks are coming in and plugging in and serving food to consumers on 24-hour, around-the-clock, whatever they decide to do, that's the policies we're trying to create.
Okay, so let me help frame the issue to maybe clarify. So the best way that I can sort of help you visualize or envision this is, yes, food trucks are coming into the city, and you have, legislation that was recently approved that basically says cities, you can't prohibit food trucks, but you do have the ability to regulate food trucks, right? You can't outright say you can't come in the city, but you have the ability to set up a system that says you can be here, you can be there, you can't block our rights of ways, you can't be in the right of way, you can't impede traffic, those types of things. So there's a whole regulatory scheme that deals with private property. And the way that Planning Development Services works is that, of course, anyone that would come in and want to operate a food truck on a private property, they would need approval from the property owner, right? And then they would have to comply with some minimum criteria or standards that you would set out. Like, you can't impede the, fire lane or the pedestrian vehicular flow of traffic in the parking lot. It has to be located in a certain area where it's not going to cause a problem. I'm just talking out loud. And then on the other side of the fence that we're all used to is there are a number of city-sponsored events where we've had food trucks where they've been downtown or they've been in the park, and they've been tied to the government, right? We, as the city, co-sponsored, they're on government property. And so we have great leeway as a city in how we would like to establish the policy or how we want to dictate and regulate what happens with city-sponsored events and food trucks on city property. And you don't need to codify that. That could just be a policy that is adopted, that you all follow, that's fluid, and you can change it whenever you want. You can give the manager direction to do that via the Park and Recreation Director. The aspect that I'm talking about that we would need to codify is dealing with food trucks coming into the city that are wanting to operate on private property. Because what's happening is it's becoming more and more prevalent that questions are being posed to your planning department, and your planning department is being faced with food trucks or people who own private property who want to put food trucks on site, and they're looking for direction or approval, or what do I need? How can I do this? And staff is, doing the best that they can to say, okay, we know at a minimum you can't block the fire lane. We know at a minimum you can't block, ingress, egress, those types of things, common sense sort of things. But, without having something in the code that they can point to say, at a minimum, please submit a drawing or something that shows where you're proposing to put this food truck at in the parking lot, the dimensions of an existing property or a vacant property, that you have the approval of the property owner. We're not concerned about whether or not they have insurance, because that's between them and the private property owner. We are more concerned about the governmental aspects of making sure that they're not in our right-of-way, they're not impeding vehicular ingress, egress, that they are not taking up otherwise necessary and required parking spaces for that particular business. So those are the types of issues and things that I think staff is looking for you all to give them some guidance. Or you could just totally say, we're not going to do anything, hog wild, whatever anybody wants to do, they can do. But that doesn't necessarily help staff with filtering the questions that come in that they're getting with regards to food trucks.
Can I just add on to just real quick? So we are seeing some activity with that. Is that correct?
Yes,
Joe?
that's correct.
We are seeing activity. So in the last month or so, what would you say the interest in food trucks going to private property has been? And has a property owner contacted us, or who would be responsible for going through that process?
Michelle just told me that there are, she doesn't know the exact number, but there are at least several a month that come in, and there are various questions that come in, and some cities have established regulations where you might be able to put a food truck on this property and you can be there for a period of 48 hours or, however long you want, but then you have to move. You can't be there permanent. right? So it's meant to create circulation and the ability of other different types of food trucks. Or you don't have to do that. I mean, that's just an example of one of the types of things that there's no guidance right now. So staff is looking to me, I'm trying to help them determine just practical aspects of, okay, the Publix was approved, the site plan, this is what we're dealing with, right? Right, we know that they need this much parking, we know that this is where the vehicular traffic comes in, this is the ingress egress, where on the site plan would be the applicable place or the most safest, reasonable place to have a food truck operator come in and locate. And so that's what we've been doing. And that's how we've been treating these inquiries. And so because we're getting that, it makes sense to at least develop at a minimum some sort of criteria that you can look to or show to with regards to food trucks and regulations. I mean, because if you have a problem with one, right, and there's issues with one that are problematic, you want to be able to cite to a specific code provision that says, hey, buddy, you can't do this. You have to comply with these regulations. So that's the primary sort of background discussion, and that segues into and relates to the vice mayor's primary thought process, which is start a pilot program that just allows for some type of minimum vacant parcel that would be supportive to allow for some number of food trucks to come on with communal seating and bathrooms and provided ADA and all the other things that are going to be necessary. So, there's that type of regulation, but then there's also the taco truck that wants to come in once a month and wants to locate at, Publix, or wants to come in, and operate somewhere for 2 or 3 days and then leave and go to another city. And so a lot of these food trucks operate on social media, and it's guerrilla style, They're like, okay, we're going to be in Homestead on Tuesday, and then people just show up, and it's like a mob scene, flash mob. And then they, say we're going to be in Medley, on Wednesday, and then it's like a flash mob, So that's sort of the food truck culture that has happened and is happening, and we're only getting further into having to deal with these issues and not having anything on the books or any policy guidance from you all with respect to how, when, what, if you want to do with it.
Sure, and I know others want to speak, but at this point, listening to what you're saying, I think I'm in line with Councilman Fletcher, and we need to do a workshop of some sort and not take up all this time here tonight to figure this out, because there's multiple layers to this, and we could sit here until midnight and still not come up with a real plan. So I know others may want to speak, but I think Fletcher had the right idea. Let's form a workshop and make it
just
happen.
for everyone's edification, I mean, that's what I tried to do, is just sort of create, not that this would be the end-all, be-all ordinance, but I just tried to pull aspects from the county and other municipal or county regulations and list them here, so that it would at least be a starting point for you to check off, yay, no, this isn't going to work for Homestead, yes, this is something we could tolerate, this is something that would be good, so that we're not starting from ground zero. It at least gives you an idea or provides the platform for further discussion.
That's this document right here, right? This
Correct. That is
two-page
that's
double
the
page?
tab 11 document.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that we need to come up with some foundations for permanent site locations, transient type of locations, and then special event style. So for the example you gave with like the mob style, that would be like transient, where sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. So if a private property owner wanted to allow that to happen on their property, they would look at the transient style guidelines that we would set.
Yeah, they could just come in ahead of time and fill out the whatever it is we require, right?
Right.
With the information that says on Wednesday that we know this food truck's going to be here. They're going to be located in this area. This is a designated area, and
Well, somebody who would want to be, a property owner that would want to allow that on a frequent basis, not a permanent basis, but a frequent basis throughout the year, and it would have different food trucks coming, that would be more of a transient style process. Whereas, let's say, for example, Publix, 1 week out of the year is going to have a special event and wants to have a food truck there, that would be more of a special event type of a permit to allow.
Yeah,
And then the scenario that Vice Mayor is bringing up to the table is more of a permanent location where it's like a permanent campsite for food trucks to sign up, have a business license, and operate off of a specific location. And those, let's say, leases would change out, as they expire. So those would be, for me, that's how I would take this in 3 different bites and come up with the policy. So would you say this is more in the style of one of those 3, or kind of like all together mashed up?
yeah, it's a little bit of all 3, like a
Okay.
mashup.
So could you do us the favor of maybe, I want to take this home and read it and digest it again, because I did take a look at it, but kind of now with this new, perspective, I want to do it again. But if you could separate them into those 3 categories, do you think that would help the rest of you guys would that be useful?
Well, I think some of the generally applicable, whether it's going to be on private property or whether it's going to be like somewhere for a day or 2, the intent was not
Well, it would
to.
all be private property, whether it's a day or 2 or permanent or transient, right? So special event would be more of a temporary. Transient would be multiple times a year, but different vendors. And then a permanent location would be a property owner running a business with multiple leases for food truck spaces.
I understand that.
Like permanent.
And you can certainly provide those different types of regulatory schemes.
Right, but could you take this and divide it up into the 3 that would be
Sure.
more applicable? So like the permanent location that Vice Mayor is bringing up, how does that differ from, let's say, an RV camp where you come in, you plug and play, and in this case, you're selling something out of your campsite? Can we kind of look at the mobile home park regulations and mirror that onto a property site?
Well-
And add the retail consumer sales aspect of the code?
Well, I think that we would definitely need to look at that. I don't have all those answers
Right.
exactly, because
Maybe
I
that'll be
think some of
helpful.
that dovetails into the nature of how these food trucks operate, and they're permitted by the state. They work on propane and gas, and how that ties into, from a building code perspective, into a more permanent type of electrical outlet setting, more permanent setting. So we can certainly vet that, look at that, have those discussions, and then come back to you all with something a little bit more broken down into subsections.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
We just came from, and congratulations to Kamitra for putting the Eats and Beats scenario. And that was a great event, and without food trucks, that event wouldn't have been the same. Along with all of the events that we do on Main Street in front of Losner Park, all of those events are great, but without food trucks, it doesn't exist. So we don't want to create a nuisance or any type of liability to the city. But what we do want to create are, we want to create alternatives just for people to eat, but like another amenity. So if we want to take the path of least resistance, or to hedge our bet, or to not have as much risk, let's pilot program something very specific, and if we see that it works and we feel comfortable with it, then we could expand upon it. But I'd like it to be just the way the events are. It'll just be a permanent permanent place. So when I decide I want to go to lunch, I don't want to go to the taco place across the street every day. You know, I'd like to have another place that I could go that takes pride in what they're cooking, and they've got all their licenses, and they've got all their, you know, they got their regulation in place with the state. That's the direction I'm trying to head in.
Right, and that would be assuming that the vacant lot is of a certain size that can support
Right.
the 3 or 4 food trucks that you're looking to have, and it has the correct commercial zoning on the site.
Correct. Correct. So again, I'm trying to stay away from any nuisance or any negative connotation that food trucks may have, and I'm trying to make it very specific to something. So it's not 3 categories, just make it 1 and then expand to 3 if we want to. That's where I'm at. Mayor, thanks.
Thank you. And clearly, I think we need to have a workshop, and as we thought through this tonight, and, you know, clearly there are at least 3 different categories. But, you know, when we talk about a permanent, a hardscape where someone can park and remain there for an open-ended period of time, you know, are we then opening the door to the pop-up tents where we have flower and basket vendors on Easter and Mother's Day? And I don't know that that's where we want to go. And I'll again assert my concerns, and particularly now that we have awarded CRA monies to restaurants who are making the commitment to pay a lot of rent or have bought buildings and want to do renovation, we're kind of building in a more economical competition against those who we have funded to operate bricks and mortar businesses. And we're going to be talking about the Homestead Business Incentive Plan, where we're going to waive impact fees perhaps, or pay the impact fees and permit fees and perhaps some others. So for me, that's kind of a slippery slope. Are we disadvantaging those who have made their rent payments, who have made their mortgage payments, who have paid the taxes, who remit sales taxes, for those who just show up and pay probably a nominal amount of rent to the parking lot or the property owning? Maybe they remit sales tax, maybe they don't. That's going to be, for me, a huge policy issue. And by doing this, are we opening the door to other vendors? I agree with you. At this point, we have a dearth of choices at lunchtime in this community. And we may need to reevaluate this program or build in an automatic sunset on this program as our downtown and the rest of our community builds out. But I see some real unfair advantages here being given to these mobile operators that really have no ties and commitment really to Homestead, other than they're committed to come here, take our money, and go home and spend the night somewhere else. I mean, again, I'll use my phrase, there's a time and a place for everything, but I think it needs to be incrementally and well thought out, and I hope that we can have a workshop and further discuss this in far more detail and other than this formal setting. And so let's, I think Councilwoman Avila spoke in terms of, to the attorneys of kind of, segregating out the categories, and some are far easier than others, but they all have policy considerations. And once that's done, we can set up a time to all get around a table in a more informal setting and hash it out. Absolutely.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to clarify that what I'm hearing is that the transient and special event style options, those are easy to figure out, and we're already seeing those happen. And what we really need to focus on, is what Vice Mayor is saying, is that more permanent location option. But Development Services needs direction on all 3, on how to handle all 3, and that's why this is being presented as the conundrum that it is. But I have to I completely understand the concerns that you're raising, Mayor, and I respect that. And by no means do I want to, discredit the hard work and sweat that has been put in by our brick and mortar restaurants in our downtown and across Homestead. But I have to disagree in the sense that competition breeds innovation, and it improves quality, and it brings more options. And so I think that the crowds that are going to be attracted by these food truck vendors are only going to bring more opportunity for our local businesses to have new buyers coming into their stores, and they may not even come to Homestead in the first place and see that restaurant on the corner of that brick and mortar, and maybe next weekend they'll come to that restaurant now that they've been to a food truck down here. So I think that it's going to bring more opportunity, and it being regulated is obviously the best case scenario. I'm not against having a workshop. We have to figure out how to get it done, but I'm in support of coming up with a system that works and that works for both sides and that makes sense. But we have to give development services direction. It's as simple as that.
Can I mean, just make a recommendation? If you all could, maybe just go through and just review the criteria and make some notes or marks, so that when we have the workshop, that we can expand upon and maybe go through. I mean, some of this I think we can get through the minutia really quick, like what's the minimum thing you need, the piece of paper to show development services that you're coming in to do. And then the more complicated things we can sort of vet out. So what my goal was that I was trying to create a separate and distinct program that wasn't necessarily tied to a special event, right? That, I mean, in theory, it could be a one-time thing or a temporary type of event, but that it wouldn't require you to have to seek a temporary or a special event permit elsewhere in the code. It would all be contained in this one section, and you would know that you're dealing with a special food truck application, permission, sign-off within the realm of the parameters of how we can do that logistically, given the limitations on fees and licenses and some of the other aspects that are preempted in the statute to the city. So this is going to, the goal is to make this not complicated, to make it somewhat simple for staff, because you're not going to be able to charge or recover any type of license fee or any type of fees associated with the review of these things. So I just want to sort of keep that in mind, because staff resources and time are going to be required, and the easier and the more streamlined we can make it and the more efficient we can make it, the better it is for everyone. So I'm happy to do whatever you all want to do. I've heard several different sort of directions, opinions. I think the consensus is to defer this. Let's have a workshop, and then we can sort of filter out from that workshop a little bit more and talk about more permanent aspects. Am I correct, or?
Correct.
Well, we have time to put this on the agenda of the Southwest Master Plan workshop. Same thing, add it.
I don't know that that's been set yet.
Southwest Master Plan workshop, I thought we were doing the Chrome Avenue corridor.
Whatever the next workshop is, does this body feel that this needs its own separate standalone workshop, or can we piggyback off of another one that's already coming up?
I think you can add it on there, and if we all feel we still have time at the end of the first go-around, then we can continue the conversation. or
Two
defer it.
monumental discussions, but yeah, we can put it on there, and if we get to it, we get to it.
Whatever the council's pleasure is. Okay?
Right. We'll try that. All right. Thank you all. Okay. Are we finished with the food truck discussion? Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right. We're done with the food trucks? Okay. All right. Next, I'll open the floor for public comments. First, we have, where did that go? we have registered Aaron Bain on behalf of Twin Cities Track Club. Mr. Bain, are you here? All right, if you could come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, and we'd like you to adhere to the 3-minute time limit. Welcome.
My name is Jaquina Riggs. Address is 3355 Northeast 5th Street, apartment 202, Homestead, Florida 33033. All right, guys, my name is Jaquina Riggs. I'm the president of Twin City Athletic Development. As you guys can see behind me, it's my track team. It's the youth track and field team. We ranges from the ages of 4 to 18. This is my 8th year of coaching. I love and I'm dedicated to this sport. I have a passion for it. This is my own nonprofit organization, so you know what that means. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing it because of the love that I have behind it. So next weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend, I'm taking my team to Atlanta, Georgia to compete in a 3-day track meet. We've been training all season long since January 11th for this moment here. We've been fundraising. We've also went to the council meeting last week with the city of Florida City. Mayor Otis Wallace, they were kind enough to donate us a check in the amount of $5,036.44. I'm here today to ask if you guys can match that so that we can meet the funds so that I'm able to take my team to the meet. Now, the total of the trip is $15,000. Out of that $15,000, we raised $6 on our own. He gave us the $15,000, which leaves us with a budget of $4,000. Now, I always like to have an extra $1,000, $1,500, just in case something were to happen on the road, or we're short in certain areas. So that's why I'm here today, asking if you guys can please honor us with that amount of $5,036.44. That total amount, it covers the charter bus, which is a total of $7,000. It covers a total of 10 rooms, which is, I have it right here, $6,080.17. And it also gives us a $2,500 food budget so that I can feed a total of 46 athletes, 7 coaches, and 13 parents that's participating with us on this trip.
Okay. Council, questions, comments? Vice Mayor Guzman.
Thank you, Shaquina, for coming. I remember going over to the park, and I saw the way you were working out those kids, and
Yes.
it shows that those kids are in shape, and you've got a pretty good track record. I wanted to ask, how many of the kids are from the city of Homestead? Because you've got Twin Cities, so I'm assuming that is
Yes, that's
Homestead,
both Florida City and Homestead. Both cities joining together as one. That's how I came about with the name of Twin Cities. I have 13 from Florida City, and the remaining is from Homestead. So most of the kids on my team is from the city of Homestead.
How many are on the team in total?
46.
46.
Yes,
Okay, so there's a large majority that they are from Homestead.
from Homestead.
And I also recall you telling me that you used to practice at Blakey
Park, yes, sir.
And what happened at Blakey Park?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly what happened. All I know is one Monday, we don't practice on Mondays. One Monday, I went out there to distribute uniforms, those beautiful uniforms that they have on now. And one of the city workers, she told me that we're not allowed to practice out there. This was something that was totally new to me, and I told her, I said, well, I have a liability form. I make sure that I get liability insurance on all of the parks in Homestead, just in case we have to maneuver throughout the season. She said she didn't know this came from upper management. I said, okay, no problem, I'm not gonna fight it. The following day, I went to the Parks and Rec building. They really didn't know what was going on, so I left my contact information. The guy there, he told me he'll give me a phone call later. He called me, he said, okay, he don't know the fullness as to why we cannot practice over there, but he do know that we're allowed to use 2 lanes. They'll charge $5 per lane. So while he was in the midst of working things out, I was in contact with the city of Florida City, with Mayor Otis Wallace. So he just granted us permission to use Lauren Roberts Park. Because of the size of my track team, we have more space out there. So we just decided to stay out there. So to answer your question, Mayor, Vice Mayor, I do not know the fullness of why we weren't allowed to practice at Blakely Park.
Okay. And how long have you had the team? How many years?
8 years. I started in 2014.
And the place you're going to Atlanta?
Atlanta, Georgia, yes.
Do you go there every year?
We go every single year except for 2020 when COVID hit. That was the only year we did not go. And this is our first time ever reaching out to both cities asking for funding. Because we normally fundraise throughout the season, but as you know, time's hard, and most of my parents on the team, they're single moms. So it's extremely hard for them to balance out bills, plus extracurricular activities.
Thank you for answering those questions, Shaquina.
You're more than welcome.
on behalf of myself, I'm willing to support, but it's the consensus of the body, so you've got my support. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. This means a great deal to not only myself, but those children.
Mr. Manager, can you give us any background as to, what the issues may have been at Blakey Park, as well as availability and policies within, from the parks budget or wherever it may be in the city for funding these types of situations?
Mayor, I reached out to Alex. Pedro's not here today. We don't know what the situation is. Obviously, Alex is gonna talk to you now, at least get the details and find out actually what happened. In terms of waiver of fees, we usually, it would take council action, right? But this is not really a waiver of fees. This is a donation. Historically, what I've seen happen is the council members out of their own budget donate to the organization.
And when do you need to have the funds in hand?
As soon as possible. We depart next Friday. I know this is very short of notice.
Okay.
Yes, we depart next Friday at 2 a.m.
And this request would also include full payment of the parents that are going as well?
Yes,
List of
athletes,
full
coaches, and
ride for
parents.
everything?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, everyone.
Appreciate that. Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure if it was you that reached out to me when you were having issues with the track, or maybe it's one of your parents that I knew, but I was following up with parks as well, and it
Yes.
was just an issue of the park being busier
Mhm.
and them requiring the insurance. I know that you had the insurance, so I think that that's all that it was just a matter of committing to a couple tracks, which I would have been happy to
Yes.
bring forth and try to get waived for you, but then I heard that you were offered more space in Florida City.
Yes, so that's why we decided to stay there.
Anytime anything like that comes up, you know that we would welcome you back with open arms.
Thank you.
Tell me again the total, 5,000?
Yeah, it's actually just five.
Five.
Really, it's like $14,987.13. But I just rounded off to $15,000 for the total trip. But the cost that Florida City has given us was $5,036.44.
Okay. I had responded to the email that I wanted to contribute. It wasn't the
Oh, it was
700.
you.
It wasn't the
Okay.
700. That 5,000 ends
Okay.
up being split by
Okay.
7. We're all getting towards the end of our budget year, so
Yes.
things always get kind of tight.
Understood.
But if I'm able to, I will pitch in more. We have Art Walk Homestead coming up the same weekend you guys are going to be gone.
Yes.
And we are highlighting what we're calling Arts in Motion. So that
Okay.
includes sports teams. If there's anything that I can do to maybe help raise some more funds through that for you, I will definitely spend some time on that tomorrow.
Okay.
And I don't know if we make a decision now as far as splitting it or.
Well, I think we're also going to need her not-for-profit
Information.
documentation
Okay.
in order to even make those donations.
Okay.
So,
What happens if it's a less amount? Let's say we don't come up with 5 and you get 2. Are you still going to be able to make?
Yes, because
Still
what
be
I
able to make
did
the
was,
trip?
I also made reservation for a much cheaper hotel. So just in case I needed to free up funds in the budget, I'll just cancel the current reservations that we have with Hilton and go with the less expensive hotel. That way it does save money with the overall cost.
so probably the best thing would be for her to submit her not-for-profit documentation through the clerk's office, who can in turn submit it to the council assistants, who can be in touch with each of us and, analyze what availability we
Okay.
each may have left. And, one of us or the council assistants will be in touch with you with those numbers.
Okay, all
By-
right,
you know,
perfect.
Probably by this time tomorrow or before.
Okay.
But we need you to get the, the proof of the not-for-profit.
Yes,
If
that's
you
not
got
a
the
problem.
IRS letter, whatever.
Okay.
Whatever you've got. So,
All righty.
Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Riggs. I know
Thank
you've
you.
been doing this for a while. I've seen you out there practicing with the students, so we appreciate your commitment
Thank
to
you.
working with our little ones. My question to you is, in addition to providing your nonprofit information, can you provide us with your itinerary
Of
for
course.
the weekend so that we have an understanding of what will
Yes.
be taking place? And then after the fact, if you can provide us with the report of how the boys and girls
Of
did
course, of
while
course.
they were competing. I'm committing to supporting you as well. I'll support
you.
as much as I can to ensure that the students are able to travel outside of Miami-Dade County to Atlanta,
Exactly.
Georgia, because that's important too. for them to compete. So thank you so much for all that you do.
You're more than welcome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I don't know what documentation you're going to need. I did vet them a little bit, and they are registered with the state of Florida as a non-for-profit. They haven't gone as far as to get their IRS certification yet, but they are registered in the state of Florida as a not-for-profit. So I don't know what part you're going to need.
Big difference.
Yeah, there is a difference there for sure. I'm willing to commit $500 to your cause.
Yes.
So I'll make arrangements for that tomorrow with my assistant, and
Thank you.
hopefully somebody else will kick that in. And then we spoke on the phone. I'll call you tomorrow again.
Yes.
All right? Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
With regards to community funding, there are multiple organizations here in Homestead that exist specifically for opportunities like this.
Yes.
So I highly encourage you, next year, next track meet, a month and a half in advance, reach out to organizations like the Kiwanis of Homestead, the Rotary, This is for the Kids, Inc., even Seroptimist.
Okay.
These are organizations that are fundraising throughout the year to be able to plug them back into our community and put money into programs that are enriching the lives of children in our community. So, you can reach out to me directly, and I'll plug you directly with those presidents and board members that are in charge of making those decisions, and you can present your program to them with time, so you can get more funding and run your program, more with more sufficiency. I want to support this as well. Please send. I was looking for the email that somebody said was sent, but I didn't see it.
Yes, I sent it.
I'm sure you did, but
yesterday,
I
yes.
will look it up again, and please connect with me by the end of this week, because you're leaving next Friday, you said,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So we want to make sure that you've got what you need.
Okay.
And as Councilwoman Fairclough said, we want to see the itinerary, we want to see a recap, and we
Yes.
want to celebrate you as well. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck. Is there anyone online? Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to make a public comment? Last chance. All right. I'll close the public comments section of the agenda. Mr. Manager, anything further?
Mayor, I just wanted to make a statement that I know we got hit pretty hard by that storm on Sunday this last weekend, and I just wanted to do a call out to Public Works, QRT, Code Enforcement, the Police Department, Parks and Recreation, and Facility Maintenance that were actually out here Sunday night addressing all the situation, the downed trees, the electric utility as well, sorry to miss them, is taking care of the situation as it had occurred. So just want to shout out to them, what a great job they did.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Attorney, need any exec sessions? We're good? Okay. All right. Councilwoman Bailey, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Mayor. So as I just mentioned, next Saturday, May 28th, is Artwalks Art in the Park. It will be at Blakey Park this year, 600 Southwest 14th Avenue. It is a completely free community event. Not only is there a free food distribution, there is also a free lunch with lots of fun art-related activities. We have live painters. We have our first Art Walk selfie wall. It's going to be really fun. So please do not miss that. All of the flyers are available to share, English, Spanish, and Creole, on our social media. You can look up Southwest Advisory Committee or my social media to please help share this amazing event. May is also National Water Safety Month. I am putting together with the Southwest Advisory Committee some nifty little lanyards like this. This one says Water Watcher. Any of you with little ones have been by a pool and there could be 5 adults standing there next to you. but everyone is thinking that somebody else is watching a child in the pool, and it happens in a split second. It is silent, and it's the scariest thing if you've ever been part of watching a child suffer trying to get somebody's attention. So we will have some of these things available to pick up at Roby George Park, or I invite you to get creative and get a hat or something where you can designate somebody as the water watcher while you're at any type of water event. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Roth?
Okay. Thank you. I don't really have much, but I'll piggyback on what Jerry said, and we were communicating that Sunday after a typhoon came through the city of Homestead. I don't know if all of you experienced what we experienced, but my calculations were 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and the trees were down and stuff. So kudos out to everyone. The police department, they were the first ones to start recognizing that there was an issue in the city. Trees down, at least on the east side. I didn't get to the west side to see what happened over there. But kudos to all of them. The guys that were cutting the trees out of the way and things like that, Public Works or Park and Rec, whoever those guys are, thank you all for being there for us on a Sunday afternoon about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening, when I'm sure none of you expected to be called out to start running chainsaws and pulling branches and stuff out of the streets. But we're thankful to know that they're there. They're dedicated to us and the city and the citizens and to safety when natural disasters occur. Although that wasn't what I would call a full-blown disaster. It was a little, it was funny. I was sitting in my living room like, wow, what's going on outside? And all of a sudden I hear this big old crack and fall. Like, did a tree just fall down? And then I looked outside, I'm like, it's white out. It's like it was crazy. So, but thank you, Jerry, for responding, and thank you for everybody who had to go out and participate in that cleanup for us. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. Councilman Fairclough-Staggers?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I just wanted to commend our CRA department for the fantastic Eats and Beats food truck event that was held on the old City Hall property. I just want to make sure we don't kind of conflict with that, because from what I understand, it would be a series. The first Saturday of each month, there will be Eats and Beats, It's a Vibe food truck event. So I had a great time. I saw the mayor from afar. I think Councilman Bailey was there. Vice Mayor, were you there? I'm not sure who all was there. I kind of closed the event. They opened it and I closed it. It was a great event. So thank you so much for all the work that you put in. Nice crowd, nice vibe. It was fantastic. So one of the best events I've attended in the city. So great job. I'd also like to send a congratulations to all of the graduating class of 2022. Graduations will be coming up soon, starting next week, I believe, and I look forward to participating in some of those graduations for our local seniors in the city of Homestead and Florida City. And speaking of education and graduation, we have some openings on our education committee. We intend to proffer names at our next council meeting for prospective members to join our education committee. So if there's anyone interested in joining us, please feel free to send your information to myself or the city clerk to be considered to join our committee. And those are my updates. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Fletcher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple quick things. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend a park naming for Dr. June and Tim Craig over at Keys Gate clubhouse area, where they named a butterfly park after his past wife and himself. Great event. A lot of folks in the community turned out for that. I went there instead of going to the military affairs. I knew we had coverage at both, but it was really a good event. And if you get the opportunity to see Mr. Craig, give him the congratulations. He was very, very thankful, and it was completely unknown by him that they were going to do that. Secondly, this is kind of out of left field too. Yesterday there was an announcement by the President of the United States that we need to start utilizing any unused ARPA funding for police-type activities and hiring police officers. So a couple of things I'd like to know is, where do we stand at with all of the positions that we approved last year? Are they all in place? I don't need that tonight. Secondly, I know we talked about in the budget and what I'm going to be requesting for next year, but if we can get a head start in that process, we need to start thinking about that. If those fundings are available from ARPA to start that process early, let's move forward with that. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. I do believe that Ms. Emily Gallego has arrived. We deferred her item earlier. Is she here? From FIU? Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you. Short and sweet, because we're at the end of our agenda, and I have a few more announcements after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ignacio, come on. So we are from Florida International University. We started a program in 2018 in construction trades to help the sections of our community that are not the college ready, the master's degree or the PhD. So what we do is we service the underprivileged members of all communities in Dade County. It took me a while to get to Homestead, but thanks to the assistance of the CRA and Comitra, we were able to come out here late last year. We started a class in carpentry and a class in electrical. We do national certifications for the students. They do not pay a single penny to attend these classes. We're all grant derived. We started first with a with a gift from the Lennar Foundation for year 1 and 2, and then I became an avid grant writer, and we have since become self-sufficient through grants. We're now starting year 2, or our second cohort here in Homestead at the Pico Williams Community Center. We're going to be teaching in Spanish this time around. We're going to be teaching electricity in Spanish, electricity in English, and carpentry and cabinet making in English. Again, this is 6-month classes, pre-apprenticeship. The students get a pre-apprenticeship certificate from the Florida Department of Education. They get a national certification from the National Center for Construction, Education, and Research in core curriculum and in the craft that they're doing. They get OSHA 30 forklift certification. And with the assistance of Ignacio Calderon here, who has been a partner with the FIU since the inception of this program, he helps them find a job, and he follows them for a year after we place them.
If I may, real quick, the difference, my name's Ignacio Calderin, the difference between our trade program and many other trades that may exist is that once the student has the credentials, like she said, we follow them. We get to know their families. We go and meet them at their needs. We don't just send them on the certificate and good luck, get a job. We make sure that they obtain, but they maintain the job. And we're there for any obstacles that they will, not they may, that they will, as far as transportation, as far as tools, as far as even food. Whatever he or she may need to be successful in that job, our relationships with the employers is what makes a difference. Once we send them, and we will be concentrating on whatever city that we are working with to deal with the construction companies so that they will be hiring these individuals who will be not only certified with OSHA 30, NCCER, but will have the support from FIU. Thank you.
Short and sweet. So basically, we look forward to your support in pretty much spreading the word that we're here to help the community of Homestead. We came here, and I need to give a shout out to Lucia Soria. I am a member of the South Dade Chamber. I am in the military committee. I'm a military mom. So I am now an adopted daughter of the city of Homestead. I don't live that far away. I'm off Coral Way in 157. So we thank you for your time and pretty much your assistance in letting your constituents know that we're here and that we're here to service them, and it doesn't cost them a penny, it just costs them a little bit of commitment. Who we serve? Returning citizens, returning veterans. We teach at shelters. We teach at the juvenile center. So we are everywhere because we do realize the university is on Flowering 107. It took me an hour and 15 minutes to get here because the turnpike was not cooperating today. And I do apologize for being late. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming anyway and enduring whatever portion of our meeting you witnessed, and certainly we welcome, an ever-increasing footprint of FIU into this community, and certainly what you do is so invaluable. And between the social media presence of the 7 of us, as well as the city of Homestead, I I would anticipate that we can get you all the folks you need and then some.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, and
for
I
your
forgot.
program.
Ooh, he's going to kill me. We did start also an HVAC program
Very
with
good.
HVAC providers. We're teaching 2 more classes over there. So we're moving south. Okay?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Mayor and
it.
council, it was so important for me that, thank you. No, you can go ahead. Thank you. It was so important to me that we all heard this at the same time, and I'm sure that it's been put out in social media, but we have to expose this resource and make sure that our residents and our workers and our young adults know that this is an option right here in our town. So if we can have staff just keep pumping it out, boost it, whatever you want to call it, blast it, boost it, pump it, do it. We got to get, these trades are so important. You can really do well for your family and be successful with a vocational and a trade license and do well, do better in a lot of cases than some attorneys. But, so thank you so much for that presentation. I want to congrats to the graduating seniors as well. I want to thank the Kiwanis of Homestead Club that's going to be donating 500 books to the Art Walk event that's coming up, so I want to thank them. I want to thank Mayor and Council for all of your support to the local nonprofits that are fundraising and putting out scholarships this season for the upcoming Dolphin Days fishing tournament that Kiwanis is doing. The scholarships that Rotary is putting out now are just unbelievable. What I'm hearing, the success rates that of these organizations and what they're putting out into the community. I want to announce that I am hosting for the second time a Domino's in the Park event at JD Red Park. Thank you to Councilwoman Jennifer Bailey and Councilwoman Patricia Fairclough for joining with me to commemorate this event for my late father-in-law who passed last year, and to bring this event, beautiful event, to City of Homestead. It's free entry, free to play Domino's from 6 to 9 p.m. Food vendors will be there, and there will be more live music, beautiful music. And I want to give a shout out to staff for putting on an amazing military appreciation event. That was beautiful. A lot of people were out there, and the military have sacrificed so much for us and for our country, and it's the least we could have done, and you shot it out the park. So thank you so much for that. And special thanks to staff and development services and our parks department. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. And to our police, you're amazing. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for keeping the turnpike at Campbell Drive and intersection under control. I see you out there every day. Thank you for doing that. Keep up the good work and get home safely.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Vice Mayor? Next
Thank you,
can of
Mayor.
worms. Have it.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm sure all of you have in your packets tab 12, and this particular parcel deals with an inconsistency with the zoning code and the comprehensive plan or the future land use map. So part of tonight, what I'd like to do is find a solution to fix this situation. And typically when a property owner looks to do something on a property that he could consider as of right, the zoning code on this particular parcel is B1A, which is professional, commercial business professional offices. So it's not a retail strip center, but the applicant wants to do a professional strip center. So the applicant went and he got caught up, with development services because he thought he had the right to build a professional center, and then came across that there was an inconsistency. So I asked, our team to dive in, and they did great research and they provided some information. And in the information, you'll notice that I always thought when you change the zoning on a particular property, it would run concurrently with the land use map. Typically, that's what happens when I see Lennar and D.R. Horton and all the other big guys. They come here, and just like everybody else, we usually do it at the same time. So back in, with the research that Joe Corradino's group did, back in '77, there was a zoning change from low residential use to B1A, which is in, page 1 of your packet, tab 12. So back then, I guess in '77, they didn't change the comp plan amendment concurrently with that zoning change, creating some inconsistency with that particular parcel. And it's mainly on the east side of the parcel. So the entire parcel should have been B1A, but that inconsistency has created some problems. And I think there's numerous properties throughout this area that has that same issue. And I know the Northwest also had an overlay, for commercial, dating back to 77, 80, those years back then. And none of us were here or part of this administration back then. But I think this is an opportunity for us not only to, make this consistent with what it should be, and also potentially go out and look for other properties, that will not affect the surrounding characteristics of the neighborhood. But I think this gives us an opportunity to fix this, for the city to be responsible to fix this, not making the applicant responsible to go through that same process. So that's why I wanted to bring this forward today. And I also have, I've done the research, and I've got an aerial photo or a street view photo of what it used to be back in right after Andrew, 1993, and it was an office building taking up the entire parcel. And they went and got a demolition permit from the city of Homestead. So it was consistent with business. I don't see why we wouldn't, try to make this right today. So that's what I'm asking this body to consider, for us to have the city, do the small scale amendment, for the city to take on that responsibility, not the applicant. That's what I'm asking on this tab today. So I'm open for any questions.
Mr. Cordino?
Yes, it's a confusing mess. So what we have is a bunch of inconsistent zoning and land use that had existed. The zoning, when we researched it on the properties, appeared to be changed by applicants in both 1973 and 1977. At the time, we had a comp plan and a zoning map that were the same thing. By the 1980s, the state had come in and said, you can't have a comp plan map, a future land use map, and a zoning map that are the same. You got to separate them, and that's where we had come up with the comp plan designations in the map. So aside from figuring out that somebody purposely wanted to go from R1 to B1A on the properties from a zoning point of view back in the 1970s, the comp plan designations probably came in the 80s, and we're left with these inconsistencies, and they're probably more than we see right here. Because you look at the, you'll start to look at the properties in that area, and you have the light commercial land use zoning, and then it generally follows property lines, and it kind of jagged. It's usually the first property abutting the main street, and then as you go back from that property, tapers off into a residential use. And so every now and then you get one of these issues where you got a comp plan category for light commercial that has a zoning category of residential, and they're inconsistent. And so there's a couple ways of thinking about it. One of them is, generally the comp plan is the guiding force, and you want the the zoning to match that, but you don't have to do it that way. I mean, an applicant can come in and say, I've got consistent zoning. I want to change the land use to match the zoning, and neither one of those things are wrong, particularly when you're in a district that jiggles and jaggles, and you have these inconsistencies that again, like I said, probably exist in numerous places here, and we kind of find them every year as somebody happens upon it because they finally looked at that piece of property. And so that's kind of the story. James, do you have anything to add to all of the spaghetti that we're looking at here?
Yeah, I just think to cut to the chase and just, there's an aerial that I gave you all. And so the aerial has the property that we're talking about in question outlined in red. And that consists of, that was originally platted and consists of 5 lots. The first 3 lots, starting from Chrome Avenue, lots 18, 17, and 16, have a future land use designation of light commercial use, and have a zoning category consistent with that future land use designation as professional, B1A, professional office. The next two parcels that were platted, lots 15 and 14, which abut the single-family home that is right adjacent to the dotted line along 17th Avenue. That property has a future land use designation. Those two parcels have a future land use designation of low-density residential. And the zoning is currently inconsistent with that low-density residential future land use category because that zoning is professional business, B1A. So, as Joe indicated, you have consistent zoning all the way through for all 5 parcels, except three of the parcels, primarily fronting Chrome Avenue, and along that Chrome Avenue corridor, were historically light commercial neighborhood business. And then as you digressed away from Chrome Avenue more into the neighborhoods, then those things started to change. This aerial gives you a little bit better of an idea from a policy perspective as maybe where you want to go, because as you can see to the south is the community center, and then to the north of the dotted line, which may have been a house, is now a B1 community, a B1 office. And it's a little bit spotty all around here. On the other side of Chrome Avenue in the northwest neighborhood, it's much more cohesive neighborhood. This side's a little bit more patchworky. So the question is basically seeking direction as to what do you all want to do with respect to the 2 parcels that are currently zoned light commercial use with professional zoning. Do you want to keep it light commercial and have the property reflect a zoning that is residential, or do you want to change the 2 parcels from light commercial to light business, consistent with the other 3 parcels, so all 5 in a row are the same? And so this issue has been back and forth in the planning department with the property owner for quite some time in different variations and different forms. Throughout the years, the property owner has filed unity of titles for some of these lots, and has come in and asserted or made arguments that they're unified and therefore they all have the same zoning, but staff has looked at it from the comp plan is the constitution, the policy, and the zoning needs to match. And unless directed by the council to initiate a city-initiated change, then it's the applicant's responsibility. So the vice mayor, I had spoken to the vice mayor and I indicated to him that there were 2 options on the table, and that to place it on an agenda for discussion so that you all could decide how you would like to handle this from a legislative perspective.
Thank you, James. From my perspective, to address this property only is kind of akin to what we used to call spot zoning. And we know that there are inconsistencies throughout this corridor. And I would suggest that I would prefer to see us do a review of properties that have inconsistent zoning with master plan designations lying 1 block on either side of Chrome Avenue, all the way from Northwest 4th Street to the northern city limits. Let's identify those, let's identify the issues, let's talk about what it would cost, procedurally to accomplish that, and then go to those property owners and ensure that they are in agreement as to our perspective on whatever those two consistent designations should be. Bring that back to council and then decide to go forward as a package of properties rather than singling this out. I mean, certainly off the top of my head, there's this, and I'm aware of two other parcels, and that's without taking into account Dr. Chokolov, who was here a few weeks ago, where that dentist office had existed since 1968. He sought to expand his business, enhance the tax base, and discovered that in order to do what he wanted to do, he had to go through some very burdensome and lengthy land use procedures. I think if we're going to promote business west of US 1, this would be the way to accomplish that, to make it easier, but without singling out one parcel. Let's look globally at what we're looking at along that corridor. That's my 2 cents. Mr. Vice Mayor?
I agree with you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask Joe, when you do these amendments and the procedure to make them consistent with zoning and the comp plan, do you have to go through a specific procedure for each one? So does it matter if you package them all up? Is it make it more efficient, or do you have to go through a specific set of guidelines for each property?
No, I think we can package the whole things, and depending on what we see and why we think those things are there, we're simply making a comp plan amendment in this district and making the maps consistent, the land use and the zoning consistent. And I believe it can be however many we find can be done all at one time. I don't even believe they have to be contiguous, or they can you can do them.
Yeah,
consistencies.
I can give you an example, a more recent example of how we dealt with this. You'll have to forgive me because my time is skewed a little bit, but at some point in the last several years, we did this exercise along Chrome Avenue, around from Homestead Station north, Losner Park for some. There were inconsistencies with regards to the future land use and the zoning, and we did an evaluation and a wholesale change to rezone a number of properties, folio numbers, to downtown mixed use consistent with the future land use category. And so you can do that all in one ordinance with a chart that identifies the properties by folio numbers and what you're planning to change. The notice has to be specific to inform the public as to what you're doing, but we can do it in one document.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to do something like that, there's property, that's zoned government property. It's got a government designation where we'd like to see density, because we've talked about having a certain density in an area where we did the workshop. We might as well go ahead and zone that property to whatever we feel we want. That way we can, knock the whole thing out in one setting. It's almost like we're creating the vision that we want to see, instead of every time somebody proffers something and says, hey, I'd like to build, a multifamily market rate, development really nice in a certain area, and we've got to go through a number of steps to get that property consistent for them just to be able to build. So I think we can kind of get ahead of the curve and decide what we'd like to see on certain government properties that we'd like to see developed as well.
Mayor, if I may?
Councilwoman?
Thank you. And I think that when the applicant Pablo was up at the podium, and my questions along the line of, the flipping of the zoning and the uses and all that, it's all part of the same discussion. So I'm on the same page with you guys, and I'm ready to have that workshop for that as well. Thank you.
Well, and, there's no question that not nearly as extensive as is on the west side. There are some of these southeasterly unimproved areas, and that's an elephant. Maybe we want to bite the northwest at first bite, and then go by geography. And I think this is probably the most fruitful area to find and cure those inconsistencies. So.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to focus on a smaller targeted area that you identified. Let staff do that analysis and identify the inconsistencies so that we can just tackle that and do it. If you start expanding, then it takes more time, it's more involved, and so for purposes of this and to facilitate the fix for this property owner as well as other property owners who may be similarly situated, if we find that and bring it back to you all, then it's probably way more efficient to facilitate doing it in a more focused, smaller area.
So do you want to look at the area abutting Chrome and just kind of that area that's the edge of the light commercial use and the light residential, so the pink and the yellow, and we'll look at that line, and anything that's not consistent on either side of that line, we'll flag and then see if we can't make them consistent. Is that?
And my suggestion of 4th Street was geared to that picks up at the outer ring of what I think we all consider the core downtown, and begin to do that larger scale work. Sure. And I think, a block on either side of Chrome.
So south all the way to 4th Street.
From 4th Street going north to the city limits, one block either side of Chrome.
One block either side of Chrome Avenue.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. I wanted to discuss the Advisory Tourism Committee, the Tourism Advisory Committee. I know there's been some names proffered up by a few of my colleagues here wanting your recommendation or your ratification to that board. I've gotten a lot of great information from the GMCVB. They're willing to be a really good partner, and piggybacking off of the great promo video that we were sent, from the CRA, it highlights a lot of great things that are happening in the city of Homestead. So I'm eager to get that board started, and I want to start it as soon as possible. So I'm respectfully requesting that, you consider the names that have been given, because I know there's another additional 7 names that have been, that have submitted their application.
Okay, appreciate that. I'm only aware of, I think, the 3 or 4 that have been submitted, and let me be brutally honest. Until we have something to truly showcase in our downtown, other than dirty, broken sidewalks and people sleeping in the alleyway next to the Seminole Theater on a Sunday afternoon, and Losner Park is finished 7 or 8 months after its due date, only then do I want to invite people to our community, only when we truly have something to showcase. Business development is one thing, tourism is another. Now, if we want to talk in terms of perhaps, let me use the term host committee for perhaps the upcoming race in October, I would be open to that. But until we have some real forward motion and something truly to be proud of throughout our core downtown, I am not interested in spending city money and staff time and effort to have a true tourism committee. That is the rationale for my reluctance to bring forward and make those appointments. And again, if we want to recast it for a specific event, but just general tourism, I happen to believe is very premature.
Not only with the races, Ciberium, the Everglades, Gateway to the Keys, a lot of the things with the Redlands, I think there's opportunities other than just downtown, but I don't want to, it's been dormant for a while. We've just reignited it We go to the partner GMCBB, they get excited about participating with Homestead again, and then I tell them, well, we're not really advertising anything about tourism. It kind of makes us go in the wrong direction. I want to build off the momentum that we are starting to see with some of these partners. So let's highlight what we see as good. Let's highlight the good parts, and let's work on the parts that you're mentioning with downtown. And that committee has a budget. And they've had a budget for a long time, which has not been tapped. So I don't see I understand your point, but I don't agree with your logic behind not wanting to bring eyeballs and tourists to the city of Homestead. That's my opinion.
Candidly and brutally honestly, there are things that exist throughout this community every day that I am in no way proud of, and I'm not in the mood to invite anybody else here to look at. We only have that one, the cliche, you only get to make one first impression. I don't feel we are there in terms of tourism. We are in terms of attractiveness to commercial investment, and that I believe will be the rock that makes the ripple on the pond to clean up the areas where we have issues. I am very reluctant to entice people to come here as casual observers at this point.
Part of what the tourism committee does is meet, talk about what they want to promote, bring those ideas back to this body, and we decide what you guys like and what you don't like. So I still think you have an opportunity to decide in which direction you want to go. But again, I don't think just stonewalling or blocking the committee from ever being established is the right approach.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. I see both sides of your coin. What I do want to have you consider, Mayor, is that these committees, when you have residents, constituents that are asking to participate in such a way, they become now the advocates and the voice to ask and to demand the things that you're asking for and demanding for that we all want to see. And they become that rock that creates the ripple of, around the city to be in support of the way we vote, to fund budgets, to increase beautification, to find solutions for our trash, to add more police officers. So, these committees are extensions of this body, and I think we might be chopping off opportunities without even seeing where it even can grow from. So what if we do something where we start the committee and we monitor it on a probationary period, and maybe before they can expend money, it comes to us for approvals, and that way we still have a say and a control, and we can address some of those issues and those concerns.
Well, certainly you make a very valid and good point about the advisory capacity of the committee. What, at this point, I do not want the committee to do is go out and independently promote our community before we are ready for our great unveiling. That's my concern. Let's be realistic here, and the advisory portion is well taken. I think 3 or 4 of you have submitted names. If the rest of you would like to do so, I'll consider that at the next council meeting.
Would this committee be able to take the events that the staff is already doing and hype it and boost it up and be an echo of what the efforts were already taking, on, versus independently creating opportunities and creating attractions? They're just echoing and being that a second layer.
Potentially so.
All right, thank you. I see that there's some compromise options here, and I look forward to seeing how it works out. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm kind of in that line too, but I think there's some administrative things that have to be established too. Mr. White or Mr. Pearl, the Vice Mayor says there's already a budget in place. Is there also a charter in place for a tourism board that exists that's already in place?
There's a tourism, excuse me. There is a tourism committee that is defined in the code under the same section that almost all of our other committees are defined as. It hasn't been operating. With respect to the budget, I would have to defer to the manager. I'm not sure if money's been allocated this year. But yeah, the framework is there. It requires an appointment and staffing.
I got you. Okay. So that would kind of be my thought process, would be to allow the board to be formed under a probation type scenario. I don't know that I agree totally with the mayor with not wanting to promote anything about the city of Homestead, but I think we do have an obligation to do that. But I understand his parts too, with the aesthetics of parts of the city and other things. But I think a proactive approach to creating this board would help stimulate additional eyes on the city when it comes to some of the things that they may be wanting to work on, when it comes to the aesthetics. And again, I think Councilwoman Avila said or mentioned that they could promote and piggyback some of the events that we already are doing. I mean, a perfect example is the Art Walk next week. How many people could we attract, from other districts in the county that would want to come see art? But then you start thinking about, okay, well, you got the Powell Gym in the background. There's some things that aesthetically, but I think people look past that. People are adventurous, and when you take on that responsibility of tourism and trying to promote the city, I really think that we need to be proactive in that. And again, I understand some of the things you're saying too, but when you it's hard to get people to commit to working on a committee or a board in the city, and you've got folks that are willing to do that for this particular one. I think is proactive, and I just think we should give them an opportunity at least to do that under however we set it up, as far as what they're allowed to say or do, or what they're allowed to promote at this time, or whatever. I just think we should, give them an opportunity. I don't know anything about that part of tourism. I don't know anything about the acronym that Vice Mayor just threw out there. I don't know what it stands for. I don't know who it means. I don't know what it affects. But I still think that it sounds like it could be proactive for the city, and I think that we should at least give it an opportunity and a chance to breathe a little bit. Thank you for the time.
All right, and, perhaps we can, as the rest of the balance of the slate is submitted, in conjunction with that, perhaps, rather than the full term of appointments, which I guess are 4 years, are the board appointments for what time frame?
Well, they run concurrent with the offices of the appointee. So, but I've heard
So that's in code, so we couldn't really limit the life of the activity of the committee?
You can do whatever you'd like. It's just the mechanism.
Just stop the sentence there. You can do whatever you like.
It's the mechanism by which you choose to do it. So right now, we have the way that our committees are created. We have general framework under which all of our committees operate. And then each of our individual committees, they define the qualifications for their members and their jurisdiction and the things that they're supposed to oversee and administer. With respect to the Tourism Advisory Committee, it seems like there are a couple of questions. So there are only 4 definitive things that they're supposed to look at that are within their purview. It's the promotion of Homestead as a tourist destination through tourist-oriented sports, cultural, and special events, to explore opportunities for tourism, related funding through donations and grants, to promote environmental stewardship efforts within the community in a manner which enhances tourism, and to provide a forum that encourages and facilitates opportunities for businesses and community leaders and citizens to interact and discuss tourism issues. And aside from that, it is any other matters assigned to them by the council. So, I mean, you have prescribed. So to the extent you want to narrow what they're doing, I mean, we can look at the scope of what's been assigned to them under the code, if that's something that you think is necessary. Again, it's an advisory committee, so any actions are really sort of any final action will be taken by the council. So it's not as if they sort of operate independently.
So what I'm hearing, and unlike some of the other committees, and I'm not criticizing at this point, I just want to make an analogy. Let's say the Community Relations Board hosted a cleanup day, or the Southwest Advisory Committee put on something else, the Education Committee put on something else. That's, that really, they budgeted, they implemented it through staff and our council assistants. My concern is that the Tourism Committee not go off on their own without full council involvement. Some of the other committees, and look, and again, this is not a criticism. They take on a life of their own and do their projects within their purview. And I think that, if we're going to go forward with a tourism committee, it's got to be something that, if the tourism committee sponsors XYZ event on Saturday afternoon, we need to be in the loop with that so that they not get too exuberant and too far ahead of themselves in what's reality versus aspirational, over aspirational. Okay.
Well, again, I don't know if there is a defined budget for the Tourism Advisory Committee, so I don't know that they'd have the resources to do anything on their own.
In answer to that question, yes, it is budgeted, and if I'm not mistaken, it's $10,000.
Okay, so not much.
Thank you. All right, and that would include an allocation, staff overtime, we'll say, to have after-hours meetings, would come out of that budget?
Normally, for the advisory committees, it just comes out of the mayor and council assistants, their overtime budget already established. If, for instance, a committee was going to host an event, they could, as part of their event budget, allocate for staff overtime, to pay QRT or what have you.
Sure, appreciate that. Okay. Does that address your concerns, Vice Mayor?
No, not yet.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, I said I would entertain next month a full slate of nominees. Okay. I am not willing to appoint a committee that has unbridled discretion over promoting Homestead until I and 3 others of you feel Homestead needs to be promoted in the way the Tourism Committee feels it needs to be promoted.
I'll let Councilman Fletcher.
Okay.
Start off.
Yeah, not to belabor the issue tonight, but I've requested input from my community as to a name to put on this committee, and I've yet to receive input yet. So, I do need a little more time in order to have a representative for my district on the team. So, I think moving forward, into the next meeting would be the appropriate thing to do at this time.
And the current names aren't even agended tonight anyway, and it wouldn't I don't think they would constitute a quorum. Any additional?
Yes. So piggybacking off of what Matt Pearl said, it's an advisory committee. I'm the liaison to that committee.
By virtue of an appointment made when?
January.
No, you were appointed as a liaison to the Greater Miami Visitors and Convention Bureau.
I don't have the minutes with me now, but I thought I also added to the Tourism Committee. Would you like to make me that liaison now?
Let me take that under advisement. Because remember, I have the discretion to even put those appointments on the agenda. So let me read through the documents that govern that committee. We'll go back and look at those minutes and take it from there next month.
Would this be the first time that you've actually delayed a committee from being established in the history of your mayorship?
To my recollection, sure.
Okay.
Look, I know you love the Kool-Aid that they pour downtown with the Greater Miami Visitors and Convention Bureau that think this county begins and ends on Miami Beach. Their reality is not our reality at Homestead.
Miami Beach has some bad areas too that they probably don't want to promote, but they got some really nice areas as well. And I think we're not taking advantage of the opportunities that we have, because I've never heard of a city not wanting to promote tourism, ever. This is the first time I'm hearing it in my city. All of us have the best interests of the city at heart.
I didn't say they'd want to promote tourism. I said we need to be in a position to make a good first impression. I do not feel we are there. We have a long way to go. We have a Cyberium and 3 restaurants downtown and a dance studio. And beyond that, a whole bunch of vacant storefronts. We've got a racetrack.
So what you said is you're considering appointing the people that you've been given, the names you've been
And any additional that come in for those of us who have not submitted names.
Okay, I rest there.
Okay, thank you. Any further items?
Oh, I wanna say thank you to Michelle. By the way, Michelle's retiring.
No.
Michelle Wells, our assistant, she's retiring. So I'm very, very sad that she's retiring, but I know that she's off to a better place in her heart, and this is what God has called on for her to do. But she's a special woman for me. She's done amazing things. You call on her for any research, you call on her for any advice, you call on her for anything, and she's always available. She always, receives you with a smile, with a hug. She's never in a bad mood. It's always hugs when you see Michelle Wells. So I'm going to miss her tremendously, and I want to say thank you, and I wish her all the best in her future endeavors.
Absolutely. She's been a real godsend for me. You may have induced a stroke in HR when you talked about greeting with hugs. I don't think that's allowed. But certainly I join in your sentiment as to our council assistant. She's been here since, what, 2015? Quite very, very good source of institutional knowledge and history and information at her fingertips. And is Janeth still here? No. You have big shoes to fill.
I also wanted to remind everyone in the audience and here on the dais that the semi-pro soccer team is having their inaugural game May 22nd. They have invited us to come over and do a ribbon cutting ceremony. It's going to be at 4:30 to 5. Then they'll do the national anthem, and then they'll kick the first ball into the goal to get the game started at 6. So I hope to see you guys
Is that Sunday?
all there. It's Sunday.
Sunday afternoon.
4:30 to 5. It'll be the ceremony and the ribbon cutting
At
Harris Field. And I did want to ask Colonel. Colonel, what does it cost to have police officers at an inaugural event like that, not knowing how many people will show? Or
I'm going to let Captain Rodriguez respond to that because he oversees the off-duty program.
How you doing, Vice Mayor?
Sir.
I go based on the hours that the vendor gives me. So if they tell me it's from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., that's how I base it on and the number of officers.
Okay, so for this particular event, how many officers would be required?
He's being given 6, which is what would be typical for a high school football game as well, is what they're required.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Colonel, Captain. All right, my first item tonight is, did I miss anyone? Everyone's had their shot. Okay. My first item tonight is the declaration of a few items of police protective equipment that we have in inventory be declared as surplus for delivery through the Foundation for Human Rights for outfitting citizens in the Ukraine. This item was brought to me by our Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez. So we are talking, you know, they're going to all the municipalities in Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and the police department. And although, you know, you may realize that sometimes protective gear such as bulletproof vests have certain shelf lives. Well, she was quick to point out that a maybe beyond its expiration date bulletproof vest is better than a t-shirt. So that's where they are, and certainly Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and Public Safety Department is on board with this, as are most of the the independent fire departments and police departments in Miami-Dade County. The state of North Carolina has been a big supporter of this effort, and I just ask that we have a motion to approve the declaration of these surplus items and dedicate them for delivery for use in the Ukraine.
Mr. Mayor, this is actually, I'm sorry, this is a resolution of the council that declares these specific items. So if I may, just read the resolution. So that's what it's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, declaring certain personal property of the city as surplus, describing the manner of disposal, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Well, that was short. Okay, we have a motion. Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Roth. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Councilwoman Bailey.
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila.
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher.
Yes.
Councilman Roth.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Guzman.
Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And again, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our own Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez, who helped spearhead this meeting that she graciously invited me to attend, putting together elected representatives throughout the county and really taking the lead on this. My second item tonight is, I guess, a request that there is a direction to staff for the city to issue a letter in support of implementing the planning and the initial funding to ready Homestead Air Reserve Base to become a candidate for and receive the new F-35 fighter jets. I understand that, things have happened and we're now, again, more actively jockeying for position. Mr. Manager, I think we would have to go back to those who requested this to see, whether it be within the Department of Defense or through our congressional delegation, wherever that may be, but we just were looking for some approval from council to have staff issue that letter of support as necessary to perhaps lay the groundwork to bring that new equipment, 22nd century equipment to Homestead Air Reserve Base, just as signaling our support and encouragement to make that happen. So is there any objections? Do you need anything further, Mr. Manager?
No, sir. That's all I needed.
All right. Very good. I have nothing further. Anything further from council? I have a motion to adjourn. I heard the second. All in favor? Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks for using WebEx.